So let's go ahead and get started. This is a special meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen. I'm going to read the announcement for the meeting. This announcement that was sent out 2 days ago, and that was on Tuesday, January 5th. Announced that there will be a special Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting on Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to consider action regarding the city's contract for residential trash service. No other business will be discussed. And the next paragraph explains that meeting's location will be by Zoom. Again, this is discussion. This is consideration of anything that somebody wants to throw out.
Yeah, Mayor, what I'd like to do with this, I appreciate everybody.
It has to pertain to our contract for residential trash service. Go ahead, Alderman Skidmore.
Yeah, thank you very much. What I'd like to do with this whole discussion, or at least, and I hope the alderman will agree with me on this. We all have our, all 13 of us have our complaints, and I'm sure we are attack dogs when we need to. But I'd like to hear about Waste Pro first before this meeting goes any further. It's going, obviously, it will go further, but I would like to hear their side first right now. So if we could just go ahead and Miss Cates or whomever is going to be doing that, go ahead and just start with them, and then we can take it up. Then we can go in. But I'd like to hear them first and give them the opportunity to do that. I just feel it's incumbent upon us in the city of Hendersonville to do this.
That seems very sensible. Alderman Waters had his hand up before he even spoke. Alderman Waters, you okay with us?
I just wanted to ask Mark.
Yes.
I don't object to what you're saying, but how does she know what our complaints are about? It would be nice.
I'm pretty sure she knows about our complaints.
I haven't talked to her. I'd like to share my problems with her and let her answer them later, but I don't object to what you just said.
Okay.
Alderman Waters, why don't we do this? Why don't we hear from them first, and then we'll come back to you as the first person to ask questions?
I knew you'd say that.
Alderman Campbell, go ahead.
I just want to make sure the YouTube link was up, because I've had a constituent ask me in a text message if it was automatic or how it operated. He said it's linked up to it, so it's up and working. Just make sure we're on YouTube. Thank you.
Okay, so it's working out. Okay. So without objection, I think we'll go that direction. It sounds like a good way to move forward as any. So do me a favor, the folks from Waste Pro, when you speak, please introduce yourselves and tell us what your position is, and I'll let you all have the floor. What I will do though is, Lori, since you're the person who's our contact on the contract, I will come back to you at some point and ask you if you're ready for questions.
Okay.
Mayor Clary, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, Annette, you're fine.
I'm so sorry. I just want to, do we need to do a roll call for a special?
Annette, that is why you're here. One of the many reasons. We need to do a roll call.
Okay, all right. Please answer yay if you're present. Brown?
Yay.
Campbell?
Yay.
Collins?
Yay.
Cunningham? Cunningham?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Dixon?
Yay.
Edwards?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yay.
Peterson?
Yay.
Petrelli?
Here.
Roberson?
Yo.
Skidmore?
Aye.
Waters?
Happy New Year.
Clary?
Here.
All right, all 13. Thank
Annette,
you.
I'd like to say that was an intentional omission of mine to test you. However, in reality, it was really a test of my memory that failed. Lori, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, sir. This evening, you have obviously me, Lori Kate, here on behalf of Waste Pro. Richard Joyner is on here as well. And Tim Dolan is on from our corporate office as well. And I believe that Fred Forkenbrock, that's our supervisor, is on the Zoom as well. And right now, I just kind of want to yield the floor to Tim. He's going to take the lead this evening. And then, like the mayor said, at that point in time, we'll be happy to come back and address any questions, any concerns, or anything that you may have at that point. but I just wanted to make sure that I introduced him to everyone here. He's a significant asset to our company. He has been with Waste Pro for numerous years, and I will yield the floor to Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, let's hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me okay?
You're good. Look, actually, you're a little bit soft right there.
Oh, let's see if I can find the volume. I'll speak up a little bit louder. Is this okay?
It's a little bit better.
Okay. My name's Tim Dolan. I'm the Vice President for Governmental Relations for Waste Pro. I've been with the company for 17 years. I've played the role most recently of an RVP, so I'm very familiar with the operations and what's supposed to be done during the course of the day. I'm familiar with the owner's philosophy, the company philosophy, and service is number one when it comes to what our company believes in. Now, I would like to apologize. It's great to meet all of you and see all of you. I do wish it was under different circumstances, but that's what we're here to address tonight and see what we can do to resolve this. I've been involved in this situation for about 48 hours. So what I'd like to do is kind of give you guys a rundown of what I know, what things we're trying to put in place to improve the situation, and how we're going to try and deal with this going forward. And then that'll be kind of a broad statement. And if there's, to your point earlier, if there's specific questions, then we'll be happy to answer those and address those specifically when I finish up. And hopefully everybody's concerns will be addressed. First thing, we all know COVID's been an issue. We all know the holiday trash gets heavy. We all know that the employment situation has been an issue, but quite honestly, that's not your problem. That's ours. We understand that. We're expected to get the garbage picked up, and that's the mindset that we have, and that's the mindset I've got tonight, and that's the goal that we have at the end of the day. So first thing we're addressing, we did have a meeting today. I met with Richie and with Lori. We discussed some of the needs. We discussed some of the areas that need to be addressed. First and foremost is employment, is people on the ground, boots on the ground, drivers. We're going to attack that from a couple of different directions. Now, understanding from Richie is we should be able to be cleaned up by the end of the day Saturday with what's on the ground right now and get back to regular schedules next week. We are fully staffed at the point where we have enough bodies on the ground, but we need to have backup. Okay, so we're going to be addressing that either through, if we need to bring people in from other divisions, we'll do it. We'll be aggressively hitting the hiring situation, reviewing the staffing that we currently have budgeted for the city, and reviewing that to make sure that come worst case scenario, we have enough people to get the garbage off the ground every day. That's the first thing we're going to address. Second thing we're going to address is equipment. We're going to review that. I don't know that that's been an issue up until this point in time. However, we are going to be looking at that to make sure that there's backup equipment and there's backup equipment for the backup equipment. If labor's been an issue in the past and we solve that, we don't need another issue popping up with equipment. So we're going to be addressing that. Third part of it's going to be communication. Now, again, like I said, I got into this 48 hours ago, so I'm not sure the level of communication that's gone back between us and the city on a local level. We'll make sure that is being addressed if it hasn't been. As important or more important, there's going to be communication between that location and between the corporate entity. I'm going to be taking the lead on this situation and following up and making sure that everything is going along like it's supposed to, and that if it's not going along, we're not going to be reacting 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks later. We're going to be reacting 24 to 48 hours because these situations, it's bad enough that they drag on a day or two. They shouldn't be dragging on a week or two. So that's going to be from that aspect of it. I've spoken today to the chief operating officer, to the CEO, to the head of HR. We will all be getting together tomorrow morning formulating a plan. We will be happy to submit something to the city with a little bit of a timeline and some details. I don't have those right now. I do know, I've spoken, also our fleet director, I've spoken to him. He shot me a text a little while ago about getting another piece of equipment up there next week. So all of these things we're going to do. And again, we want to stay in communication with the city. And again, problems should not drag out like this. You know, we know, and by the way, please don't snow tomorrow. We don't like snow. It doesn't help us out very much. So if the weather can bear with us, we want to have everything off the ground by tomorrow evening. And we want to have a plan in place to keep this from happening again. And if
Back to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
And I just kind of wanted to follow up on Tim's statements. I think we're addressing any issues that may have been brought up by BOMA before regarding staffing or regarding equipment. Those are being addressed. And with those two major factors, I think that's going to resolve issues moving forward and have protocol in place. Therefore, if a situation arises again, that we are not where we are or potentially where we have been. And that is our goal, to shut the door on the circumstances that we have put the city in for the last 2 weeks and to not face these again. This is not the image that Waste Pro generally portrays of itself, and we are fixing that. And we apologize for the situation that the city has encountered, and we would like the opportunity to fix that and to move forward and handle everything. So I'm just kind of going to open the floor up to anyone on BOMA now.
Appreciate that. Let me ask a clarification real quick to Tim. Tim, you said, did you say that you're going to be back on track by Monday, or you will be caught up by the end of tomorrow evening?
My understanding when we spoke today, and Richie or Lori, tell me if I'm wrong, is that we plan on having this week's routes done by Saturday afternoon, and to be back on a regular schedule by Monday. Richie, you can let me know if I'm wrong with that.
Yes, that's correct. We will be caught up Saturday afternoon.
How many houses are you behind right now? I know some Wednesday houses that are still lacking. How many houses are you behind?
There's 5 routes on the ground. I don't have the number per route, but we have 5 routes on the ground. We run a total of 10 routes.
You don't know how many houses you're behind, but you're sure you can be caught up by Saturday afternoon?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We know that we have the equipment to place on the routes, and we know we can't speak off the cuff as to how many homes are on each route. I can give you a range, but to quantify the number of homes on route 1, 2, or 3, but I do know that we have the people, say, to allocate to cover those routes to complete that by Saturday.
Rachel, I know you had some questions. You want to go? Alderman Collins.
Yeah, I have people who still have not been picked up since before Christmas.
No, you don't.
I do. Saundersville Road. I don't have the street number, which I wouldn't probably give it to you over this format anyway, but right across from Millstone, not picked up since before Christmas. I had an entire neighborhood go 6.5 days with their garbage on the curb, 13.5 days altogether since their previous pickup. I had 40% of my ward go 3+ days without late, 3+ days late. Last night, you were actually further behind in my ward than you were a week ago Wednesday. So when you say you're catching up, from my perspective, you're actually falling further behind. When are those resources going to be here? Are they here now? Were they here today? Is that tomorrow? When? And I don't care if it snows, by the way.
Who's got that? The Waste Pro team. Who's got that one?
I do not have a definitive answer right now. Again, I'll be meeting in the morning with the CEO, with the COO, with the maintenance director. that is information. Again, I can't provide it right now, but I'll be happy to report back to the city in the morning and give them an idea of exactly where we are and exactly when those resources are coming in. I did get texted earlier about an additional truck that could be up there by Tuesday of next week. I have not heard anything about manpower yet.
Alderman Collins, back to you.
So, I mean, I like what you're saying, that you're putting more resources here. The question is it enough? I don't know. I'm not in the garbage industry. Is it too late? I don't know. Frankly, I have a trust issue with you at this point because I have been told over and over, we're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there tomorrow. If I can just tell my constituents what to expect, that would be so helpful. There, for me, are three things. I really want the homes that were missed to be picked up in order. It shouldn't be 6.5 days, and yet other people in my ward are being picked up on the day they're scheduled, while another neighborhood goes 6.5 days. Let's make it equitable. If you've missed them by days and days and days, go there first, not the next day, first. Don't go anywhere else. Go there first. If you can be caught up, if you are caught up and running on schedule when we have our BOMA meeting on Thursday, that will be incredibly meaningful to me. And like I said, if it snows, it snows. I don't think that is going to go over well with me. I hope you were kidding, but
Alderman, I was, I hope it doesn't snow, but again, that's our problem, not yours. So I'm not trying to use that as an excuse.
So if those things can happen, I will be willing to reevaluate my position at that time. But at this time, I frankly do not see you as part of our solution. I need you to show me that you can be a part of the solution.
That's perfectly fair.
Okay, I yield.
Alderman Collins, we may come back to you later on. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been on this journey since day one with you people. And I think this is our third, maybe fourth meeting that we've had with representatives from Waste Pro. I'm hearing the same thing right now that I heard several months ago, not from this gentleman, but from your employee who came to the board. I'm like my previous speaker here. I'm concerned. I'm not only concerned, but I'm confused. And let me give you an example. You don't know probably what Western Place looks like. I hope you do. It's like Main Street in Hendersonville. Traffic, traffic, traffic. Tell me, why would your people go up halfway up Western, turn around and go back the other way on Western? Why wouldn't they not go all the way to the end of Western, which is probably what I'm gonna say 3/4 of a mile? Do they get just one side? Is that your policy? They can't get both sides as they go? Either one of you can answer that question for me if you don't mind.
And I can speak to that just from an operational standpoint. There is a potential that the route itself breaks in that length of Wessington. Just to give you that information, we try the best that we can to have those break at, obviously intersections or anything like that. But then when it comes to the safety of our employees, if that's a double yellow line road, we're not going to have our employees crossing with that potential oncoming traffic. So that is why they would service one side of the road and then turn around to return to service the other. So there is a safety reasoning behind that.
That's your policy.
Yeah, that is our safety policy as a company, and Tim can speak to that more.
Actually, it's an industry practice.
Okay. Answer this question. Why do I have to run them down on Western Place again and say, hey, you missed this house? I'm gonna say 127 Western. How come you missed that house, but you got the one next door? Now, I don't want to sound like your people are not intelligent. Don't get me wrong, but there's got to be a reason that they will jump houses. There's got to be a reason they'll pick up mine. I'm using me as an example, but they won't get idiots next door. And they'll call me. These people, I've got these people trained to call me as soon as you miss them. And I'll get in my car and I'll go catch them. That's a question. Okay, let me move on. Let's make sure we got this timeline that you just mentioned. You're gonna be caught up by Saturday, is that right, Rich? I guess Rich is still on the line.
Yeah, he's hunting his mute.
Yes,
Okay.
we will be caught up Saturday afternoon. We're rolling 5 routes over. We will be rolling 5 Friday routes over to Saturday, and we will be caught up Saturday afternoon. We're back fully staffed. We don't have any issue with the trucks. It will go back to normal, back down to the low number of misses that we had before this.
How you doing, Rich? Good to see you, buddy. Good
Yes,
to
sir.
see
You too.
You're familiar with, Rich, I know you are. You're familiar with Georgetown Road, and you're familiar with the gentleman that you miss every week. And I get so tired of texting you and saying, hey, Georgetown Road, Glen Oaks. Now I'm just using my ward, Ward 6. I know the other colleagues on this meeting have got their same problems, but I'm just talking about Ward 6. And I am getting sick and tired of having to call or text you or somebody Friday morning, about 10 o'clock, Glen Oaks. Do you have a time that you can tell me right now that you catch Glen Oaks subdivision? Would you look that up for me and give me some kind of a idea? It's always after dark. It's always the next day or 2 days later. It's never on Friday like it's supposed to be. Just be thinking about that for me if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna get caught up Saturday. Sunday you're gonna be off, okay? Sunday, but come Monday, y'all gonna be back on schedule. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna be back on schedule. Okay, now I think somebody just mentioned you're fully staffed now, right?
Yes, sir.
You're fully staffed. You got the equipment. Is there any reason that I should sit here and be concerned about tomorrow, about Friday?
By Saturday afternoon, no, sir.
By Saturday afternoon. Okay.
Right.
Let me write that down because I sure want to be sure and tell them when they call me. Bear with me, Mayor. This is so important to me and to my colleagues over here.
Alderman Waters, you're fine. We can always come back to you if you need to take a break for a second.
That's okay. I'm so glad you have this meeting, Mayor. It's so important to me and my people. And it's way overdue. I'll say that. It should have been done a long time ago, but that's beside the point. Should I address these 2 dumpsters with these people, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just looking at the note about the 2 dumpsters that the city is putting out.
Okay.
One at Free Hill Road and one at Volunteer Park. Is that going to be necessary now since you're caught up, Rich?
No, we just put those out. I've been communicating with Marshall. We just put those out just in case somebody wanted to drop some stuff off there.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the calls I've got since that word got out, they're gonna crucify me. They're not gonna do your job for you, okay? Are they out there now?
Yes, sir.
Are you anticipating them taking them back up?
Yes, sir.
When?
I haven't talked to Public Works yet, but as soon as we get caught up Saturday, I will talk to Marshall Saturday. If we want to move them Monday morning, that's fine. We'll move them Monday morning.
Well, one of them's in my ward, and I was not asked about it. I was not mentioned. I want it out of there. The one at Volunteer Park. You'd be surprised the people that's called me since they got this information about, and the main complaint is, even we got to do their work now to get them caught up. So that's what we have to go through with every day, Rich. And I hope you can appreciate how I'm feeling. And I'm sure the others is going to be just as bad as I am about this situation. This is so important. Number one, when you leave trash on our streets for 2 weeks, when it should have been picked up, number one, it's a health hazard. And number two, we can do better than this. There's no way that a city like Hendersonville, Tennessee has to go down the street and see all this garbage that's out here, where dogs have tore the bags open, where they stowed it up and down the street. It's so embarrassing. Mayor, I'm gonna stop right now, but I will come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waters, Alderman Waters. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 3 or 4 things to put here. Ms. Collins, I would like to tell you much more diplomatic than me. I just throw it out there and y'all can grab it. That's just the way it is. I can't help it much, but it seemed like we had this very similar meeting a few months ago. Once COVID started and we had some problematic issues with trash. My partner, Ms. Dixon, called me earlier this week and said, "Are you getting any complaints on trash?" And I said, "Well, honestly, not too many, because I usually know the places that they're not. I haven't picked up, but I will tell you, Karen, I haven't called you in the last day or so. I certainly have got a couple, 3 in the last day or 2. So I understand getting behind occasionally. I do. I understand a truck being down. I've got one of my key employees right now is out with COVID. She works 40 hours a week for me and runs a register. I've had to throw some balls up in the air and hoping I can get them to land right. But my store opened today and we did business all day long. So I understand manpower, Mr. Dolan, but I don't want to hear that anymore. Okay. I understand equipment that we didn't have enough, or you don't think. I don't want to hear that anymore. You know, we've been under contract for a year and a half now. What I do want to hear is that you're going to get the trash done. You're going to get it picked up in every ward in this city on time, with an occasional bump in the road. And there's not a person that's on this Zoom meeting that doesn't understand an occasional bump in the road. I'll go along with Mr. Waters on a couple things. We don't agree all the time, but I certainly can't figure out how rhyme or reason once in a while how we pick up trash. And my examples would be, on Monday, your truck comes by my house between 7:15 and 7:30, almost like a clock. I've had a couple Mondays that it hadn't been quite that time, but most of the time it's about that time. This past Monday, I'll give you an example. They came by my house, they picked me up, they went across the street, they picked Meadow Lake Court up, which is a cul-de-sac. They picked my next door neighbor up, the 2 peoples down to the corner of Glen Hill, and went across the street and got the person on the corner, and all of our trash is taken to the road, by the way. That's just how we are down here, okay? They went to the next neighbor, and when I left to go to work, their trash can was sitting at the road full. And they had brought it out the night before. The reason I know that is because I walked the dog late that night. I don't really understand how you missed that trash can. There's no rhyme or reason there. So I made a left turn and I went up Glen Hill. Looked like they did a pretty good job at Glen Hill. Whoops, there's a bag of trash sitting by the road. Took a picture of that. Went about 8 or 10 more houses. They were all picked up. A lot of the cans were at the road. Some of them were in the road. That, by the way, is a aggravation too when you have to drive around the trash can. And all of a sudden there is about 25 boxes that somebody had taken the time to break down and stack next to their trash can. The trash was gone. Boxes were still there. Went down a little bit farther on Glen Hill where it runs into Lake Terrace. All that little shot of street was picked up except the last house on the corner. There sits a 45-gallon drum full of trash at the street. It was brought out for you to pick up. I don't understand that. I don't think you can explain that to me because there's not a break point there. It's just, I decided I'm not picking this one up for whatever reason. Now, could have been construction materials. Guess what I did? I looked in the trash can. It wasn't construction material. It wasn't yard waste. It was good old-fashioned Hendersonville, Tennessee trash. That's what it was. And your guys just decided to go by. Now, I'm really getting tired of that. I'll tell you. I think you know the address 110 The Landings by now, Richie. I think you know the address 104 Maple Crest Drive. I said Maple View yesterday. I was wrong. I'm sorry. It's Maple Crest. That belongs to a doctor friend of mine that has, I guarantee you, called me. She volunteers for me at the Samaritan Center too, so I get to see her every week. So I get to ask her on a Wednesday, did they get your trash on a Monday? Guess what the answer is most of the time?
No.
Nope. I had to call Public Works, or she'll text me. And this is not just 1 or 2 times, Marshall. I see you up there too. This is all the time. Now, you know why? I'll give you my reasoning why. She lives on a cul-de-sac, and everybody on the cul-de-sac brings their trash to the street, with the exception of her. She pays for backdoor service. She wants backdoor service. And her backdoor service is really pretty easy. From her driveway to her trash can, guess what that is? 38 steps. You know how I know that? Because I've stepped it. I drove up there the other day. Maple was cleaned up. Hallelujah. Trash is going on Maple. I believe I'll check Maple Crest. Trash is going on Maple Crest. Well, I believe I'll drive up my doctor's friend's driveway. Drove up her driveway, opened my door and did this. I reached over and lifted the lid up on her trash can. Guess what was in it? Some good old-fashioned Hendersonville trash. Now, I know I'm sounding like a bit of a smart aleck and a sarcastic guy right now, but I am absolutely tired of those 2 or 3 or 4 addresses that I see all the time. I'm tired of it.
Amen.
And now, I'm tired of it enough. And I told you this last night, Richie, with the problems we've had. And I'll tell you, Mr. Dolan, since you're on here, and Lori, I didn't talk to you last night, that in my opinion, I would fine you today for every house that you rolled over in the past 2 or 3 weeks. I would get in your pocket. Now, that's not my call, but you're hearing what I'm saying. Mr. Bradley's hearing it, Mr. Lamar's hearing it, and Mr. Boyd's hearing it. When you get a speeding ticket and you go to the court in the city of Hendersonville, if it's a good one, I believe it's going to cost you $185 because I believe it's $50 plus $135 court cost. It's pretty close to that. Well, you're not going to speed too many times because Curtis Lincoln's going to fine you again. And pretty soon he's going to put some points against you and take your driver's license from you. I'm ready to put some points against you and take some of your money. I'm tired of calling about 104 Maple Crest. I'm tired of calling about Mr. Verbal's house at 110 The Landings. I'm sorry, Ken, I mentioned your name. You're probably watching this. I'm tired of it. You know their backdoor service. You train your drivers to go to the back door. That's what we contracted you for. If you can't fulfill that contract, then you need to dissolve it with the city of Hendersonville and give us enough time to find somebody who can do it. I'm ready to vote on all that, what I just said, in favor of it. But being the good guy I am, I'm willing to give you a few more weeks to try to get it straightened out. But I can tell you what, if you say you're going to get it done by Saturday, snow or no snow, Mr. Dolan, it needs to be done by Saturday, period. Work into the night on Friday. I don't care what you got to do. But I'll tell you what, if I have to go back to 104 Maple Crest and check and see if her trash is emptied again, I'm going to ask for the mayor to call another special call meeting. I'm going to keep asking because it's ridiculous. And I'm not the only one that has addresses like that. Now, you see, I'm still hot from yesterday. I sent a text out to 4 of you yesterday, and it was smoking when I sent it out. When I talked to you last night, Richie, I was smoking hot, still am. I'm tired of doing stuff that you need to do. Follow up on your people, get some people on the routes, get enough trucks to do the job. We'll get in your pocket, and we can do that tonight. It's fine with me. Maybe that will motivate you. I don't know what the motivation is. I've supported y'all since day one. I've been in your favor. I haven't talked about fining. I haven't talked about doing anything. I've listened to Mr. Boyd. He said, here's how many misses is. We get the updates. I feel okay with that. I'm not okay anymore. Even all those times when everything was okay, 104 Maple Crest, 110 The Landings, and 3 or 4 other addresses were getting missed almost weekly. I think I've made my point. I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope to get an answer to this from somebody from Waste Pro, but answer me if instead of picking up on the regular route, like Wednesday, mine got picked up on Wednesday, and that's my regular day. Why can't you, which I'm not complaining about, but why can't you reroute those to go to the houses that have been missed for days, such as those in Alderman Collins' area? Why can't you do that? I just need an explanation.
Lori, who wants to do that?
I'll be happy to address it. I can't speak to the specific location because I've not been involved with how they're set up, but normal procedure, and I was going to mention this, another one of the things that we're going to be looking at is myself and some other people will be getting with the local staff there and just exactly seeing what their procedures are, what their process is, because every garbage location I've been involved with in the last 30 years, if you ran into a situation where you had, let's say, 50 people that didn't get picked up the night before, those are the first 50 people you go get the next day. Mm-hmm. Okay. To address Alderman Brown's, and please, if I've written down a couple of addresses, if there are addresses, another procedure we should be following, and I don't know if we are or aren't, but it is routine in this industry. If you have, call it a hot list, call it a be sure list, call it something, where, you know, you make it policy that when those drivers go by and pick up that particular address, they will call it back into dispatch so that they can check it off. And for the ones where are especially hot, like we're talking about, there should be a supervisor. If it's Richie, it needs to be Richie, whoever it needs to be, that's going to ride those routes and go ahead and pop a top open and take a look in that can to make sure that it's getting emptied. Okay. And to follow up, Alderman Brown, you're doing what our supervisor should be doing. Now, I don't know if it's because of labor or whatever. You know, typically in this industry, the first line of defense that falls is the guy that's out there supposedly checking the routes and making sure everything's done, you know, gets pulled onto a truck because they're short a driver. Okay. We're going to be reviewing the staffing levels, and Richie and Lori and I talked about this today to make sure that, you know, when we say we're fully staffed, we have enough people to get the stuff off the ground. in my mind, fully staffed is I have enough people to get it off the ground. I have enough people to cover vacations. I have enough people to cover people being sick. We've upped our staffing levels in various locations because of COVID. That's kind of thrown a new wrench into it. Because before you'd have somebody get sick and they'd be out for 2 or 3 days. Now they're out for 2 weeks. So some of the concerns y'all are bringing up are perfectly legitimate, and there are procedures and practices in this industry that I've been involved with for 30 years now that will address those things. So to your point, Alderman Edwards, the policy should be, and again, we need people going out behind the routes and checking it. If for some reason you're left on the ground today, you're the first ones that get up tomorrow, and then you go start your normal routes.
Well, I appreciate you coming and taking up for the local Waste Pro division here, and I hear a lot of this should have been done. And when in your initial statements, you said you're going to look into bringing in employees from other areas, I believe you said, and going to look at getting into new equipment. Why has this not been done? I mean, I appreciate you coming in and trying to fix the problem. Why was this not done 2 weeks ago?
My apologies on that. Honestly, I literally got pulled into this 48 hours ago, and I don't know. I can't speak for the regional management at this point in time.
Well, who can? Can somebody answer why was this not looked into 2 weeks ago? Why did they wait till now to pull you in?
I don't have the answer right now, but I will get that answer. I'll get that answer to the city.
Well, can somebody answer tonight? Or, I mean, can Miss Kate or Mr. Joyner answer?
Yeah, last week we worked New Year's Day. Okay. I kind of dropped the ball on that. I wasn't thinking that we could not take all the trash to the landfill. So we wasn't able to complete those routes that we ran on New Year's Day. So that put us a little further behind on the schedule that I had with Marshall on what was picking up. So if we was able to dump on New Year's Day, we could have completed those routes instead of having a bunch of half routes down rolling over with the other routes. And then we also work on Sunday, and we worked those trucks until they packed out. And we had a few Friday routes to roll over to Monday.
Alderman Edwards.
Oh, well, yeah, those sound like good excuses. That's kind of really unsatisfying answers. Okay, and Marshall may be able to answer this. How do we determine the number of misses that they've had?
We log all the calls we get, and obviously there's been a lot of rolled routes that have a number of homes that have been technically missed because they haven't been picked up on the service day. But we'd go in and determine the number of homes that with the calls, the rolled streets, and we could come up with a number based on that information for the purpose of finding.
Okay, so it could be more. It's just basically the number of complaints and your I guess estimated number of houses. Is that what I'm hearing?
It takes some time, but we can obviously quantify the number of houses on the streets that were missed or rolled. But and also as people call in and report a miss, that obviously goes into our system. It's logged. There's a record of that, and those are easy to quantify. But it would take some time to determine the number of houses that were rolled the next day. But we could do it though.
Okay, so what I mean, if you can talk about this now, what's the plan on finding these people? Are we just going to? I mean, I completely agree with Alderman Brown here. I mean, do we have any plan on finding these people? At some point, I'm glad they are going to have everything picked up on Saturday, but at some point there needs to be some deterrent. If there's no deterrent, they're going to continue doing this. They did it 6-7 months ago and they didn't have a plan. They waited till now to try to formulate a plan. I just would like to know what the city's plan of attack here is to withhold payment and penalize them.
Well, I've obviously have had several conversations with Bradley and Mr. Lamar about this topic, and currently we do not have a plan to. Obviously, we can, if we want to, we can quantify that and pursue that. But at this time, we do not have a plan to move forward with finding.
Okay, that's not very satisfying either. Sorry, Marshall, but that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Dixon.
Mr. Dolan, I appreciate the position you're in right now, since you were only brought in a number of hours ago. But we've been having this problem for more than just this month. This has been a problem all year. It's just come to a head this month. And we're not here to solve your company's problems, but I think that we probably could with all of the resources we have on this board. But you said something earlier that concerned me. You said that you were going to go back and look at manning to budget. And at this point, I think that you need to look at what your budget is, because going back to corporate and saying I want to man to budget is not an answer. You need to man for what is needed for this job. And even if it's in equipment too, what equipment is needed, because obviously we haven't been given a superior service for the entire time of that you've been employed. So you need to look at what needs to happen to meet your contract. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Excuse me.
Oh, do you want to, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to address Alderman Dixon for a moment, if I might. Alderman Dixon, my apologies. I may have not been clear with my comment there about budget. What I meant by that was not going back to budget. I'm not familiar in depth with the budget and the head counts and those kinds of things with this location. What my comment was meant to say was to go back and look and see what was budgeted for head count for trucks and reevaluate that situation and see if it's appropriate. Because if it's not appropriate, we're going to put the resources in place to make it appropriate. So I wasn't trying to squeeze down. Basically, again, I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of this location. I'm very familiar with the garbage business and number of homes and number of routes and those type things. But part of this process is going to be going back and basically, to an extent, starting from scratch, looking at your city, looking at the needs, looking at what equipment should be in place, looking at what headcount should be in place, and getting with local staff and finding out what their issues are, and if there's shortfalls, what do we need to do to correct the situation going forward? I don't want to put a Band-Aid on anything. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
So that's what I meant.
Tim, thank you. Alderman Dixon, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. So I greatly appreciate everything that my fellow BOMA members have said, and I'm going to probably be coming out of the gate here pretty hard, so you better buckle in. I first want to apologize to Alderman Collins for how she was spoken to by Fred Forkenbrock. I would expect somebody from Waste Pro who has been behind weeks, hasn't been able to fulfill the contract since you signed it, to speak so disrespectfully to an alderman when she says this garbage has not been picked up. And what did you say? Yes, it has. No, it hasn't. Whatever you said. That is so completely unprofessional. And it pretty much exemplifies everything that we have had to deal with your company since we first started. So, Ms. Collins, I apologize. I've apologized to other members and members of the public when they have been rudely spoken to. I would certainly expect a letter of apology from Waste Pro to Alderman Collins when this meeting is over with. How embarrassing for you. So, if you all recall, we all had a special called meeting in June, okay? And when I get done with my talking points, I'm going to jump over to Alderman Roberson. So, Mr. Roberson, I just want to make sure that you're listening. The Public Works Committee laid out specific suggestions, requirements, ideas to get you guys back on track. As near as I can tell, we've never been reported back to by the Public Works Director, the Public Works Committee. So we have no idea if any of those situations you guys even explored at all. The contiguous rolling schedule was what I recommended to you guys. And as Alderman Collins just said, how does it make sense that if you've missed Friday pickup, when you start picking up on Monday, you start with the regular route instead of picking up with what you've missed? It's not an ideal situation. You guys are the professionals. You should be able to know how to get a route picked up contiguously. I'm not sure how many emails I've sent since Christmas about garbage. Maybe Marshall knows. I know I've sent at least 30 since Saturday. When there are whole sections of our wards missed, we can't even quantify the number of houses that have been missed. So going back to Alderman Edwards' suggestion, Marshall, you guys should have a preloaded Excel spreadsheet with how many numbers of houses are on a street, so that if I email you, Refuse, Alana, Board, Waste Pro, we're talking about Neptune Drive, Riviera Drive. Okay, they missed the whole street. Well, there's 30 houses on it. There's 50 houses on it. These are the proactive steps that we need to start seeing from our Public Works Department and Director. This is information that should be ready to go. It's just not that hard. So we put these stipulations on you in June, because I know Ward 1 was missed several times in June. And at one point we were missed for 16 consecutive days. Do you all remember discussing that? No? Okay. So I guess my questions of Waste Pro is, and to all due respect to you, Mr. Dolan, I believe you've been brought in as a closer here, but we've heard all of these excuses before. We have had the same problems pre-COVID than what we have now. We were told more equipment, more people, and none of that has happened in 6 months' time. And I'll be honest with you, I don't believe you all anymore. I have the same issue as Alderman Brown. The same addresses keep popping up. There's no more room in my garbage cans to take in my neighbor's garbage. There's just not. This past weekend, when Ward 1 was missed, I was told by our Public Works Director that it would be picked up on Sunday. I didn't get an answer in a timely fashion from you all of when it would be picked up, but I naively told my constituents that garbage would be picked up on Sunday. Then, I believe, Mr. Joyner, you texted me and said that garbage would be picked up on Monday, right? I got no update from Marshall that indicated the streets which were missed. Tuesday comes, so Monday passes, still no pickup. There's literally garbage rolling around Chesapeake everywhere. I'm not sure how many times I emailed Marshall and texted you two. Then on Tuesday, I wake up, Chesapeake hasn't been picked up, whole wards and sections of Ward 1 haven't been picked up, and you're running the regular Tuesday route, which oddly enough, the citizens who are actually getting their garbage picked up that day for their regular route were complaining about the methodology that you were doing, because you were picking garbage out of cans, setting it on the street, and coming back 2 hours later, and they don't want their garbage on the street. That's why it's in cans. So then I communicate with you all again, why are you not on a rolling contiguous schedule? And nobody could answer that. So the folks that had been waiting 4.5 days were still waiting. I heard from a constituent today on Airfloat Drive that he was just picked up today. So I don't believe you anymore when you say you will put the equipment in there, the people in there. We had this discussion in June. This is nothing but a reiteration of that. And there have been no consequences for you all. I feel like you literally do not care about this city at all. You made promises when you came and spoke to BOMA prior to us voting and choosing you all that you guys were going to get it done. You were the company. You were going to do it. And it's been nothing but a battle ever since. And it's really sad at this point. The communication, while Marshall has stepped up communication, we are still not getting timely updates. I literally have streets that were not picked up, that were not on any of your lists, Marshall, and I have no information to share with constituents. It's just not fair to them. There are folks that literally take their garbage back in at night into their garage because they don't want it sitting out for the 5th day, getting attacked by animals, and then take it back out the next morning. We've got to have better communication. Alderman Roberson, of what was discussed at the special called meeting in July, you made the motions or the suggestions of several items that they should be, Waste Pro should be following. Looking into subcontractors, rolling contiguous schedule. Initially, you were going to ask them to do voluntary curbside, then you took that off of there. So of those stipulations that you put on Waste Pro 6 months ago, which ones have they actually fulfilled?
None that I'm aware of.
None. None in 6 months' time. Go ahead, Ms. Kate.
I just wanted to speak to that because I do know that we reached out to the subcontractors at that point in time, trying to find anyone to step in to assist with that role, because we did communicate with staff to let them know that we had pursued that to fulfill that requirement, because and Mr. Roberson can correct me on this, but I thought we had a certain time frame in which we were to complete that. And so we did do that. And then obviously the curbside method for a shortened period of time was proposed, and then that didn't happen. But then the issue that we had, or that we were addressing at that point, was resolved and collection resumed on a regular schedule. And this has been a continuous and constant issue of addressing and how we can make changes. This hasn't been we address this and then we don't care about the situation anymore.
But how did you address it? So you looked into getting subcontractors, and what was your decision?
There was no subcontractors to fill that. So
you couldn't find a subcontractor in a 90-mile radius.
There are subcontractors available, but those subcontractors were short-staffed to fulfill their own requirements, much less be hired to fulfill another task. So we pursued several options. We provided who we contacted and gave that information.
Is that true, Marshall or Alderman Roberson? Because I don't ever recall getting that information fed back to BOMA.
Well, if I would have to depend upon Mr. Boyd, because he was the one that was monitoring what we had requested. So Marshall, would you be able to answer the?
Yes, I apologize. If I failed to report this back to the committee, I apologize. I can find that and send that to committee. But they.
I mean, I appreciate that, but it really doesn't matter 6 months later, because we're not problem solving in a timely fashion.
That's right.
And service has not. It didn't go haywire in June and July and then miraculously all become rosy, because I don't know how many times I've texted you guys or emailed it into refuse about misses. And I texted you guys the other day about a situation that was very uncomfortable here with one of your employees. And I'm not blaming the guys on the ground at all. Don't get me wrong. This is strictly a managerial problem. But when you're going to somebody's house and you pick and choose which cans you have. When you're going to somebody's house and their garbage is on the curb and you just drive by it, and then those folks are calling us, I mean, explain it to me. It makes zero sense. I'm going to yield, but you all have really let down our city.
Alderman Petrella, if you want me to come back to you later, feel free to raise your hand. Let's go to thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I have to ask several questions because I want to establish a record for possible action that we may be taking in the near future if things don't improve. So please bear with me. These questions will be addressed to Mr. Dolan and also to Marshall and Mr. Bradley. So first of all, Marshall, a question. We received, I believe, a memo subject to check, and you tell me if I'm wrong. First of all, that this problem would be corrected on January the 4th. Is that correct?
Yes, and yes. Do you mean expand on that answer?
No, not yet. I just want to develop a line of questioning here. So the company told you that they could catch up by January the 4th, and you sent that memo to us, and that's what we told our constituents. And then earlier this week, we received a memo that the company should be fully picked up. Was it by the 8th? Was the date that was given?
By Saturday. Or I'm sorry, by Friday.
By Friday. Now we're being told the 9th that the company will catch up by the 9th. So in the matter of a couple of weeks, we've been given 3 different dates of when the company is going to catch up. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Dolan, a question for you. On the scope of the problem, I went online and Googled service problems with Waste Pro, and the only thing that I could pop up was problems in Hendersonville. Are other areas that Waste Pro serves, I know a lot of them in Florida, are they having similar problems, or are we unique?
I can speak to certain areas of Florida directly. I can speak to what I've read in the news tablet or the news, some of the journals in the newspaper or the industry journals from some of the other companies around the country. I am the level of service that we are talking about tonight. I'm not accustomed to dealing with these issues. I'm not the divisions that I've run. I most recently ran a 10-county area in Central Florida. We ran into some COVID issues. We ran into various things, but they were spotty. They were not to the degree that we're talking about right now with Hendersonville. I'm not accustomed to our company delivering this level of service.
Thank you for your honesty. So the problems don't appear to be systematic with Waste Pro, but more location specific and specifically to Hendersonville. I think that's what you just said. Well, let me break it down even further. Is it my understanding, Richie, that there are 10 routes in Hendersonville that your company services divided into 10 routes?
Yes, sir.
Have the company looked at a root cause analysis and to see if the problems are specific to certain routes in the city of Hendersonville or if they're all over the city? Have you done that kind of analysis?
As far as problem areas or what got us behind in general?
No, problem areas.
Well, we know your area with the fastest growing neighborhood in Tennessee. That extra growth has produced more tonnage than what we actually started the contract with.
No, I'm sorry. Let me be a little more specific. I'm sorry if I'm not clear. The 10 routes that you have our city divided into, are there particular routes that are particular problems that you have identified that need special attention or a special training of the employees?
No, sir. Whenever we have everybody fully staffed, or I mean, we can go back and look at stats. We're down to 9 to 12 to 14 misses per day that's actually called in.
And I
Okay,
can
so
that a little bit.
go ahead.
You know that we have done some analysis just as far as the routing, because what Richie was saying, we know that the route that runs through Durham Farms and Fountain Brook and Ivy Point and Autumn Creek and all of that area has experienced significant growth, which we did plan for. But it also it has more, it's grown at a faster pace than we planned. We also know that there is another route, and Richie can tell you on what day that is. That's why we are in the process and have been in the process of just reallocating our routes, not to change any days per se, but just to, lay everything out to assist with that, because we've been working, we've been presenting that to Marshall, to just kind of going back and forth. And once we had the final routing, we were going to present that. So we have been evaluating areas that potentially could use some adjustment.
So Mr. Dolan, the contract that the city has with your company requires your company to provide all labor, services, supervision, material, and equipment necessary to accomplish the contractor's work under this agreement. So does your company have kind of a template of how many trucks and how many employees you need based upon the number of houses that you have to pick up?
Yes.
And was that methodology used when Service Pro bid and is providing service in Hendersonville?
So I can't speak to that specifically because I was not involved with the process of when Hendersonville was bid. I will tell you that we do look, and you asked if there's a process. There is. Now, there are variations that get into it. You get into, we take a look at, is it city versus county, where you get into how much density is there. You all are unique because of your backdoor situation. And quite honestly, I've never been involved with a municipality that was optional backdoor and optional street, which does create issues, especially on a service pickup. And I'm just saying that would have been one of the factors that went into play when we were putting this model together. But yes, we draw on experience and try and have kind of a formula of based on the customer, how many trucks we need, which is dictated by how many homes we believe we can pick up per route. That dictates the number of trucks, the number of people, the number of spares, the number of excess employees, et cetera.
Would you agree to this statement that the company failed to provide the sufficient labor, services, and supervision and equipment necessary to accomplish the work under this agreement?
I've not looked at it in depth enough to analyze that. Now, based on what's being told to me tonight, and again, I made this comment before, back to the budget comment that I made. My intention is to get back into this contract and basically re-engineer it, start over again, and see if we put the right resources and if we put the right number of trucks in play to go ahead and handle the contract. And if we did not, then we'll adjust the number of resources that we're going to put forth.
Thank you. Marshall, I have a question for you now. On the Public Works Department is doing data analysis probably every day on the trash situation in Hendersonville. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So let me ask you, does the staff have every piece of information that it needs from the company to begin to form a proper rationale for possible enforcement actions, or do you need more information? Has the company been forthwith on any information that you have requested to validate, the reasons why they can't meet the terms of the contract?
I'm sorry, let me make sure I understand your question. Are you asking the rationale for the?
I'm sorry. Does the staff have all of the information from the company that we need in order to make sure, like what President Reagan said, trust but verify, to verify the numbers that they're giving to us in order to take necessary action if we need to?
Yes. Yeah, we have, yeah, we have enough information.
So I've got Mr. Bradley, a couple questions for you, Mr. Bradley. Can BOMA change the terms of the contract with Waste Pro bilaterally, with both of us agreeing? Or if we change significantly the terms of the contract, do we need to have to rebid the contract?
Depends on what the changes would be, but obviously if it was a really substantial change that changed the basic contents of the agreement, it would have to be bid. And of course, you're currently under contract, so it would require ending one contract and beginning a new one. Of course, if you decided to bid something out or some portion of this, obviously Waste Pro would be able to bid that also. But any substantial, we're under contract for a 5-year period. So other than minor changes or things that were covered in the prior bid, it would be very difficult to make change. For example, it'd be difficult to change from backdoor pickup to curbside. That would be a very major change, and the numbers would have clearly probably been different for other bidders if that were what we wanted to do.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bradley, as we move forward on the potential enforcement action that the city may take, I hope that you're working closely with Mr. Lamar and Mr. Boyd and making sure that there's no stone unturned, as far as the legal recourse that we have, that we can enforce the contract that we have with Waste Pro. My question, I guess, would be real upfront to you. Do you believe, Mr. Bradley, that, and I've told you I'm going to ask you this question, so I'm not throwing a surprise on you. Do you believe at the present time that the company is in breach of its contract with the city?
According to the terms of the contract, I think that you can make a very good case for breach just based on the massive number of misses in recent weeks. Of course, the contract has certain terms that are required in the event that you would like to declare a breach, such as giving notice to the vendor and giving them a 30-day period to cure any defects in the performance. So that is whether technically a breach or not also depends on the facts of the reasons for the being so far behind, because there are some defenses that the contract sets forth that are not breaches if they're the cause for the misses. So that's as confusing an answer as I guess as I can give, but it's very dependent on the facts involved, Mr. Motion.
No, I think we can send you to Washington on that response, but I think I did get your answer, and that I agree with that answer. So, Mr. Dolan, I'm just about finished, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dolan.
Yes, sir.
Sitting in our shoes, and you were receiving the complaints that many of these aldermen are receiving. What would you do?
Well, I wouldn't be happy. First off, I would try and work with the vendor to get things fixed and give them a reasonable time to do it. And based on their performance, make a decision there.
Well, and I'll close with this statement. Well, and I have to say that I have heard from some customers that are happy with your service. They brag on the people that are picking up the trash. So I have heard some compliments. But I would like to close with this statement, is that Waste Pro, you have an opportunity to turn this situation around. And I implore you to not squander this chance. Don't flaunt or take advantage of the patience of this board or of its citizens. Our citizens, I think, are very forgiving, and they're very willing to give somebody another chance. So I'm just asking the company, let's not have to have another one of these meetings, as Alderman Brown has alluded to. Let's get this fixed, and let's have a new day, I guess, in our relationship with Waste Pro. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like we're at deja vu from 6 months ago here. First, I want to thank the mayor for calling this special called Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting just to address the dire trash situation, which I call a disaster. I am very, very, very disappointed in our service. I come from a service industry, a very small company called FedEx. We are measured by our service because that's the only thing we have for our customers. And that's the only thing that you have for your customers is service. This is directed to whoever wants to answer it from Waste Pro. How do you measure your service?
You guys want to take that locally or you want me to take it?
I would say feel free to go ahead. If we have something from a local standpoint, we'll chime in.
Okay, so we had the discussion earlier today about we use the program Trackies, correct, in Hendersonville?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
sir.
how we, that's one of the tools we use to measure our service.
And what consists of that service level?
So it's an online program that we track compliments, misses, deliveries, comments from the public. It's got a mapping system associated with it. So the question earlier by one of the aldermen about, do we have troubled routes? It allows us to pinpoint areas where we have troubled routes, where there's a higher incident of misses. And it generates reports every day. It generates reports every week. We use it to track our service.
Okay. What is your company-wide service level? And what is the service level for Hendersonville? These are important metrics to me.
I understand that. I don't have those metrics handy.
Who has those metrics?
I would have to find out. If I don't know that we review. I've never seen metrics on a company-wide level. I've only seen metrics on a location level.
Okay, what is the metric to service level for Hendersonville?
Again, I can't tell you right now. I don't have access to that information. I could access that program Trackies, pull what kind of information we have out of it, and come out with information on basically, misses per 100, misses per 1,000. And
no, I want to know the percentage of the service level. Lori, do you have that number? Or Rich, do you have that number? Because you are in Hendersonville. That should be like an important metric to measure what kind of service that you're giving to your customers.
And I think I can speak just from other positions that I've held and I certainly have experience with FedEx, that it's a very metrics system. It's a very metrics company. Everything is measured as far as how long it takes that package or how far. So I understand. I don't believe that Waste Pro as a company, and Tim can chime in on this, we have metrics that we evaluate things by as far as each individual account or each individual customer. But I don't think there is a metric as far as like, where does the Hendersonville contract fall in relation to contract X or as a company as a whole?
Okay, what is the metric for your customer? Hendersonville. Hendersonville is your customer. What is our metric? What is our service level? Is it an acceptable service level?
I would say what you've experienced the last couple of weeks, certainly during this holiday disaster, as you speak of, no, it has not been acceptable. And that's why we understand the complaints that have been brought before. We understand the situation. And I sincerely understand that this is not the first time that we've been before you. And I don't want it to appear that Tim is just the guy coming in to say, close it or fix it or anything like that. He's here, and the situation.
Okay, I'm not going to beat you over the head with the metric or with the service level, because obviously you either have it and you don't want us to know what it is for us, or you don't have it.
I mean,
you don't measure it.
I know the tracking system that we have, and I know the amount of misses that get logged. I don't have that number in front of me. And that's what Tim is saying, that he doesn't have that information right here to tell you what that number is either.
Okay. Well, that
information.
in normal service industries, the service level is like the crowning the whole company. That's what the whole company is. So, and if service level fails, guess what? There's a money back guarantee usually. So for us to be paying for service that we're not getting is outrageous, especially at the cost of taxpayers. This isn't our money. This isn't my money. This is the taxpayers' money. So we gave you 18 months to prove that you're the company that we all voted for. And we all chose to be our premier provider of trash collection. And I am very disappointed that you have not kept your end of the bargain up. We've kept our end of the bargain up, and we paid you every month what you asked us to pay you. I cannot no longer support paying for a full service when we're getting a partial service. We're paying for a premier service, and we're not even getting a basic service as far as I'm concerned. All right. I have one more thing here. We're at ground zero now. I know that you said, well, we work New Year's Eve. Well, like I said, I come from a premier service company. If we had to work 24 hours, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, we're at ground zero. We did what it took to get the job done. And that's what we expect. That's what we expect from your company. I really thought that things would change when we had the meeting in July. I really, really did. I was very optimistic. But like I said, it's been 18 months. We have good days, we have bad days, we have good weeks. I mean, weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden something blows up. So to me, you don't have any contingency plan. You don't have any, in my opinion, you were not prepared for backdoor service. You don't have enough personnel, and you never did from day one. And you don't have enough equipment. So either you make the investment in the equipment and the personnel. I want a timeline for that. Either it happens in a week or 2 weeks. You tell me the timeline for that, Mr. Dolan.
Yeah, again, those are all things that are being formulated, and yes, those will be communicated to the
No,
city.
I want to know. This board wants to know. This has been going on for weeks. We want to know now.
Okay, I understand that.
I don't want a vague answer. I want commitments. I want timelines. How many more trucks are you going to put in Hendersonville? How many more people are you going to put in Hendersonville? I don't care what it cost you. You knew going into this contract what we expected, what our expectations were. We don't have voluntary backdoor service. We have mandatory backdoor service. If every single person in this city decided to put their garbage in their back door or wherever, visible place, you are obligated to pick that up.
I understand that.
So I want a commitment. I want to know how many trucks you're going to have on the route, how many more trucks, and how many more people that you're going to commit to this city that we are paying for. The taxpayers are paying for that service. And they're really riled up. I'm telling you that they're really riled up, and they get us all riled up, and we're tired of it. We shouldn't be spending our time on this. We should have signed that contract 18 months ago. Bim, bam, you got it covered. I'm not saying that there's not going to be certain glitches. in the road like anything. Yeah, but they get taken care of like immediately. If your service levels goes to a certain at a certain level, goes below that certain level, it's all hands on deck, man. You better get supervisors, managers out there, temporary people. You better be pulling in anybody that you can.
I understand
That should be transparent to us. Whatever you do to get the job done, it should be behind, in your back door. That should be, in your company. All we're seeing, and our residents are seeing, is that their trash is getting picked up on the day that it was assigned to. It's bad enough we went to once a week instead of twice a week. People were complaining about that too. And we said, that's okay. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. We picked a premier company. They committed to this. But instead, we feel like we're screwed. I mean, I hate to use that word, but we feel like we're screwed. And I would support a reimbursement of service that we did not get. I think 18 months is long enough. And for you to be brought in the last 48 hours, that is shameful. You should have been brought in weeks ago. Shameful. I want something in writing within the next 48 hours about what you're going to do.
Okay.
And to be agreed upon by our whoever, Mr. Boyd, Mr. Lamar, the mayor.
We have a meeting Tuesday night.
Okay. I want to see that Tuesday night.
I'll add it to the agenda, pretty high up on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sorry that I got all sorts of bent out of shape with this, but this is a serious situation. And we have some tonnage numbers too, comparing the last like 2 years or so. And it doesn't look like the amount, because I'm looking at the 40,000 foot view here. It doesn't look like the amount has changed that drastically. In fact, our highest months with the tonnage was July of 2018, November of 2018, April of 2019, and April of 2020. So to tell me that the amount of trash has like all of a sudden gone up tremendously is not an excuse, because we have numbers to prove that's not an excuse. Please show me the money. Show me what you're going to do for us. Show me what you're going to do for 50,000+ people. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Tim, if you want to go on for a minute, go ahead. We have several people still want to speak. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to respond to the alderman. Your comment about these things should be and basically taking place behind closed doors, all hands on deck. I agree with you completely. I've been in that situation before. We should be providing a seamless service. And yes, I could say we're going to have one truck and one guy or whatever the case might be, but an assessment hasn't been done. In 48 hours, I'll have a plan before you folks for your meeting next week, laying out a timeline of what we're doing, what's going to happen in the what's being put in place to correct the situation.
I would appreciate that very much. And I know that you said you're brought in the last 2 days or so. I hate to put you on the spot, but you're the man. You're the man now. You have been the chosen person.
Like like I said, I've been with this company for 17 years. I'm used to things operating in a certain way. The company's been built on service, so I need to get that fixed.
And I even went back to 1968, the garbage strike in New York City. That almost looked like Hendersonville in the last week or so. It's horrible, horrible. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Tim, thank you. I want to skip over a couple people that have their hands up to go to some people who haven't spoken at all yet. Let's go to Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bradley, I don't have a copy of the contract, but does it read that we can fine Waste Pro $50 per missed house?
There's some thresholds that the contract has for a period of time and how many misses are acceptable. I know people don't want to hear that misses are acceptable, but the fact of the matter is that out of 18,000 households, there probably are going to be some misses. And the contract defines those levels before a fine can be assessed. And then they have to be what's called justified misses, and the contract sets for what that would be. And that's a miss that's, that has not been taken care of in a timely manner. For example, if you the number that is before an assessment, you have 50 misses in a week. After that, from 51 to 75 misses is $50 per complaint, per justified complaint. 76 to 100 misses is $75 per complaint, and 101 or greater misses in a week would be $100 per complaint. So those are some pretty hefty penalties that can be assessed.
And how far back can we go with these?
Well, how far back do you want to go? I mean, I think the main problem seems to have been in the last couple of months. I mean, we had a period where we were not getting so many complaints. Recently, we've obviously had a whole lot more complaints. Marshall Boyd would have to address numbers, anything like that. I don't know what the numbers are. So that's what the contract requires before a penalty can be assessed against the contractor.
And how can we impose this assessment?
Well, Mr. Boyd, according to the contract, would determine that, and actually the contract says that he's basically the final voice. I think probably the way it would work, he would put together a document where he set forth what he thought the misses were, and hopefully even provide those to Waste Pro to see if there was a response, if they objected or said those weren't missed or their records showed they weren't missed, and then a fine could be assessed based on the numbers that we just went through.
What do you think would be more effective, an assessment or withholding payment?
It's sort of the same thing. I mean, because if you come up with a fine amount, that's probably what you would do. You probably would withhold it. And of course, another idea is to calculate some fine amount that Mr. Marshall could do, say for the period that seems to have been so bad since Thanksgiving or months of November and December, whatever, and calculate that amount and just basically have an agreement that if the service level, if we get down below these service levels again, that we're going to assess those fines plus any future fines. I mean, the idea of the fines is not to make money for the city. The idea of the fines is to get the garbage picked up. And that's what I think everybody on this Zoom wants. That's what we want, is the garbage picked up. I know that's what my neighbors want.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Peterson, anything else?
No, thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, I think everything that I had down here has been mentioned, except one thing. The crews are not all equal. Some of them are, they take pride in their work, and they call themselves the A team, and they just don't miss. And so then there's other crews where it's a real problem. So I know as far as the boots on the ground, there's a lot of training issues, and you want to make sure that everybody's got that pride in doing the good work. But a lot of times I say everything comes down to money. And so I wonder if there's some other things you can do to help motivate and train the teams so that they're all performing at the level of the A team that I have in this neighborhood. I don't care though how you fix it. I'm just asking you, please fix it. And I appreciate all the comments and questions from the alderman. Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you very much. I'll have a Waste Pro take a breather for a minute and let them gather their thoughts as they should. But this is really a comment to the Board of Aldermen. I want to thank you all for doing what you've done this evening. In Public Works Committee, we've been dealing with this since the inception. And at times we tried to explain it. The mayor tried to explain it with his discourse and his displeasure of the trash pickup. We did too. But you all have, there's nothing really for me to say anymore. I'm so proud of you because you've said everything that needs to be said. What I do believe as chairman of the Public Works, what needs to be said at this point is whether we need to come up as a board with some damages, because we've all been damaged, because we've all had to go to our neighbors, which I don't, at first I didn't really mind it, and pick up their trash and take it to Forest Retreat, because you get out and it's in the summer, and it was beginning of summer. It wasn't too hot. So you were able to get out. It was kind of comical, that our trash was like that. And here we go, but it got worse and worse. And then we talked to you guys at Waste Pro, and it got better. And I was pleased. So we didn't think it was going to get worse, but it did. And it got worse again. And then when one of my neighbors, when I was walking, as I do, right over here off of Harbor Town, she came to me and she said, "Hey, Skid," like that. And I said, "Yeah." And I went over there and talked to her, and she said, "You know how it is, Merry Christmas and all this." She said, "By the way, those people right down the street," she said, "I've been watching. They hadn't had their trash picked up since Christmas." And I knew when she said that, I started looking in Harbor Town, and I noticed the trash had not been picked up. And so I knew this was coming, and it did. And so here we are now. But I wanted just to give you, at least my opinion. I get trash pickup calls at my house for all over the city, because people watch the Board of Aldermen, and they know that that I am in Public Works, and I don't mind those calls. I hate them because I'm sad, because it's a bad reflection upon not only the aldermen that represent that ward, but it's a bad reflection upon me, and it's a bad reflection upon our city as a whole, because that's not the way we live, and that's not us. That's not us at all. We don't like seeing the birds get out there and pick on the trash when a lot of people take it up to the house, up to the front of their road, when it's supposed to be in the back. We don't. It's just a bad reflection upon us all. And if it's a bad reflection upon us, it's really, really a bad reflection upon your business, your company, because it's a multi-million-dollar company. The city of Hendersonville is a multi-million-dollar company. That's the way we look at it. We have 13 board of directors, or let me back up. We have 12 board of directors, and we have 1 CEO. Basically, it's the same way your company rolls, I'm sure. And so when your company has a bad reflection, they're going to be looking at you guys. I don't want that bad reflection upon you with your fellow workmates or your fellow directors. I don't want to be looked at in a wrong way with 11 or 12 other aldermen. I don't work that way. I never have. In 30 years of being in office, I've never worked that way. I don't care who I have to work with. I may not like that person, but I work with them, and I do what I can to help them. because that's my job. Do your job. That's all I ask you to do. We hired you because we believed in you. And I want to believe in you again, but I don't know that. You're good people, you're regular people. I mean, you're just, I mean, you're fine. But it's the process of the waste, getting rid of that waste, we've got to work on. And I'm willing to give you that one last chance, but there's got to be some mayor, and I don't know, and board of aldermen, and this is my last thing I'm going to say. We have got to figure out a way about punishing. There's got to be some consequence here. As I told the mayor the other day, I said, it's like when you're working in your yard and your children are out there and you live on a dead end street. There's not a lot of traffic that goes on there, but they go across the road and you say, hey, don't go across that street because I'm telling you, don't go across the street because you're going to get hurt. So, they stay in the yard a little bit and then they go back across the street when you asked them not to do it. Now, and I lived in the day that if I did something wrong, my dad's belt came out and I got punished. And believe me, I was one of those children that didn't really do what I was supposed to do, and I would do it anyway. And then he would, my mom would get the belt or threaten me with it, and she'd spank me. She'd get go get a switch out that tree right there and whip me. I came from the days that's the way that it was. I'm sure all of you all had the same way, but I'm trying to make light of that. But the point is this: we've got to figure out, and I don't know what the mayor wants to do about it. If he wants to come to Public Works or if he wants to go to the full board, listen, I've been dealing with this for 18 months at least. Whatever he wants to do, that's fine. And talk about some kind of consequence here. Because there has to be. Because if you don't have that consequence, you're going to cross that street again. I believe that. I believe you're going to cross that street. And I don't want you crossing that street when I'm out in the front yard. Mayor, I know there's probably a couple more people that have some other issues, but that's really all I have to say tonight is to thank the board for the way they've done this. And I appreciate everything that every single person that has said, believe it or not, every one of us. And I thank you. And I appreciate Waste Pro coming out and explaining their side of the position, but action speaks louder than words. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. We've been on the meeting for about an hour and 45 minutes. We do have a couple people that don't have the option of walking away from the screen for a second, and that's Annette and Tina. I talked with Tina a second ago. She says she's okay with us continuing. Annette, it's entirely up to you, and I'm going to defer to you on this. Do you want us to take a 5-minute break?
I would like that, please. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to entertain a motion to take a 5-minute break, and it will be 5 minutes.
Second.
I'll make sure we come back. So so we have a motion from Vice Mayor Petrelli.
Second.
And a second from Alderman Campbell, I think that was.
Yes, sir. It was.
We do have to call a roll for this, okay? So we have a motion, a second. I've got a couple little blue virtual hands up over to my right. I don't believe that those people want to speak about this motion. I believe that they want to speak about the issue that we have in the meeting. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this motion? Okay, in that case, all those in favor of taking a 5-minute break, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Excuse me. Brown.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Dixon.
Aye.
Edwards.
Aye.
Hayes.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Petrelli.
Aye.
Roberson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Waters. And Clary.
Aye.
Did you get me?
We got you.
I got you. Thank you. It's unanimous.
That passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. We'll be back at 7:55. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to start off in about 30 seconds. Okay, we can go ahead and start again. Tina, do we have the recorder back on?
Yes, sir. You're good to go.
Thank you for your help on that. Let's go. I want to go back through the list. I think everybody who has their hand up has. I'm sorry about that. I'm wrong about Alderman Campbell. We're going to skip down a couple people who have already spoken. Let's go to Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I had my hand up earlier, but apparently my little blue hand went down. So I looked back at it and I said, whoop, let me put my hand back up. So Marshall, are you with us real quick?
Yes.
How many houses do we have on the house count at this time?
We have a little under 19,000. It's about 18,600, 18,700.
18,600, 18,700. Okay. Well, if you go back to March the 1st of last year through December the 31st of this year, of last year, we added 256 houses to that count. That's basically 26 houses a month. I'd like to know from Waste Pro, what is your triggering mechanism to add an additional truck, an additional, the equipment and manpower to handle the additional numbers of houses coming online? Like you said, Durham Farms is a hot spot right now, but system wide, we have houses popping up all over Hendersonville, and to the rate of 26 per month on average. Some months are 31 or 37 in November, 27 in September, and then we have 15 in May of last year. So I'm just curious, what is the triggering mechanism, number of houses that are added to the system to allow you to make you say, oh, we're getting bogged down here. We need to add some equipment and some resources, because you get paid for them. I mean, it's not like you're not being paid for these additional houses being added to the system. So that was one of my questions I have. And then also related to some of the misses, we do, back in June, when we had that meeting, I spoke about Saunders Ferry Road. It has some extremely long driveways there. I can't imagine a driver having to go from, just some of the houses on Saunders Ferry Road is probably an eighth of a mile almost. Some of those driveways. And I'm just curious, they're well over 2-acre lots. I'm just curious, I asked back then to have some smaller trucks to run up and down these driveways to do those yards, the hard to get to spots. And we still have a couple of spots on Saunders Ferry that are hard to get to. 376 is one that keeps popping up in my messages here when I was going back to my phone looking at them. Walton Ferry has some other spots as well that continuously have misses. Matter of fact, one of the people said, hey, we have been missed 6 out of 10 weeks in a row here. They've had to call me and I've had to call it in for them. And I even said that, this just seems to be one of those spots. It's a hard one to get service. And I don't know if it's where like you said, your route breaks and someone goes this way and someone goes that way. I'm not sure how that works for you, but there are a couple of spots. It just seems like continuously I get a phone call over or a text message over and over and over again from constituents. And let's see, I'm trying to find that one. Yeah, 429, 431 Walton Ferry, 6 out of the 10 weeks. And that goes back to December the 18th when I sent that text message in. And then also 102 Carroll Drive, person actually made a videotape for me and sent it to me regarding employees actually lifted his lid up, looked at it, put the lid down and walked away. And he asked them, hey guys, get my trash. And they just walked away from him, did not even service his house. That's at 102 Carroll Drive. Then Berrywood Court, they've had 2 weeks in a row of missed, complete miss on the entire court, and I've had to call that in 2 weeks in a row for them. And also 100 Cabin Branch Circle, which is in Ward 5. They had 2 weeks in a row of missed the street completely. Anyways, that's just a few of them that I have here in my phone where I've sent them in, called them in. But I'm curious as to, I know we have 3,800 houses a day that we service as a city. And how many trucks do you have running those 3,800 houses on a normal running the city of Hendersonville? Is it 5 trucks, 10 trucks a day, or is it 3 trucks? I mean, I don't know. You tell me, how many trucks do you have normally running our city?
We're running exactly 10 trucks.
Running 10 trucks. So it's 380 houses on average, if you were to break it out, 380 per truck.
And we have a very small Isuzu truck that runs up and down the long driveways.
Yeah, I've seen that little truck, and I was glad to see that little truck come out and start doing some stuff.
Yes.
What is the matrix though for adding another truck when we're at 380 houses per truck right now to service? And when I think of 380 houses and how long some of these driveways are, and they're dragging, say, a 50 to 100-pound garbage pail behind them back and forth to the street, or dragging cans back that they're supposed to be taking back behind the house once they dump the cans. I'm just curious, what is the mechanism to add additional employees? Because in the hot summertime when it's 100 degrees outside, you hate to see your garbage person having to drag 50 pounds of garbage or 2 or 3 cans from one house to the street, but they should take it back, and they're not. And then in my neighborhoods, the majority of the people over here put ours at the street. I've been doing that for 30 years. So I pay for a service that I'm not utilizing. I mean, I try to be helpful, and I do roll my can right up to the side of the road there, and they take it and move on. But there are times when my other neighbors have asked, hey, we pay for backdoor service. I'd like to get backdoor service. They said, well, keep your can behind your house or make it accessible, and they should take your garbage out of that can right where it's at. So I want to make sure we're on the same page when it comes to that. But I would like to know, what is the mechanism to allow you to say, hey, we need another truck in the area. We need 3 or 4 more crew members to help handle the load. Because if you only have 2 people on a truck, you're asking a lot of a driver and another person running up and down driveways on both sides of the street, taking care of some of these neighborhoods.
Hey, Alderman Campbell, I need you to hold on 1 second. We have a number that we don't recognize here, and it's not something that is familiar to us at all. So somebody, whoever it is that called in from 615-478-1716, could you unmute yourself and identify yourself, please? It's 615-478-1716. Could you unmute yourself and identify yourself, please? Alderman Campbell, I'll come right back to you. Tina, can you go ahead and send them to the waiting room?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your help. Alderman Campbell, go ahead. Sorry for that interruption.
Well, that's quite all right, sir. But anyways, I mean, all the other aldermen have asked questions and have expressed feelings of how I feel and how our constituents feel. 431 Saunders Ferry Road, that's another one that gets missed quite a bit. There's a few others on Saunders Ferry Road. A gentleman called me yesterday from Riverwood Road talking about his road had been missed 2 weeks in a row. And it's just time to make sure that we start getting, and also the rolling schedule. I mean, if you miss half of my neighborhood, please come right back. If you missed 190, please start at 190 tomorrow and pick up where you left off and let's keep going. People will be much more happier with that than, well, we'll come back in the afternoon and maybe get you. And also the tonnage, let me point some out here to you. The tonnage numbers in November of 2018, we had 2,145 tons of garbage. That also had yard waste in it back then. Our new contract, we took yard waste out of it to lighten the load on the truck and make more space. In 2019, we had 1,652 tons on that same truck. And then in 2020, this year, with the COVID and everybody staying home and buying more stuff offline and all the boxes that are adding up for that, we had 1,796 tons for the month of November this year with no yard waste. So we're still within the numbers. We're actually lighter than we used to be 2 years ago on the tonnage. So you should be able to take care of this, I would think, pretty quick. So look forward to some solutions. And we've all made good suggestions, and I certainly do appreciate everyone's input here tonight. And let's work together to make this better for our entire city. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Campbell, appreciate that. We're going through the list now for people to speak a second time. I have some items that I want to bring up, but I know Alderman Waters specifically held off on asking a couple questions. Alderman Waters, we'll come back to you.
Am I on?
You are on.
Okay, thank you. I tell you, we've had some great conversations tonight, and I'm so proud of everybody. Mr. Dolan, I think you're here somewhere.
Yes, sir. Right here.
Thank you, sir. You made a statement at first. You was not accustomed to this type of complaints. What is your position with the company?
My current position with the company is Vice President of Governmental Affairs.
Vice President of Governmental
Affairs, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's probably the other one also.
Yeah, that's a good position. Are you going to be with us for a while?
Yes, sir.
You are?
Yes.
Like you're going to be living here, or?
No, sir. I'm not living here. I do live in Florida, but I will be taking your contract under my wing to get it straightened out.
Well, that's good to hear. I know you're probably shocked what you've heard tonight, and whether they've informed you before you come or not, I don't know. It's immaterial to me, but I think you have realized that we're upset. We're not upset. We're mad about the service. Let me ask: is it Lori or Rich about the routes? If you come down Westerton on Ward 6, you got a crew going on one side of Weston down towards South Burn and so forth. Then you got another crew going on the other side of Weston. Is that feasible? Is that making you good progress?
If I'm not mistaken, I have to look at the route, but I think they run down Weston, they run South Burn, and then they come back down the other side of Westonton. That's the cutoff point right there, South Burn, from one route to the other. Okay,
but they don't go to the other side of Weston, down Glen Oaks and down that way. That's another truck.
Yes, sir.
That's another.
Yeah.
That's the reason
There
I
has
asked.
to be a cutoff point somewhere, and most time it's like a little major road or something.
I
That's
understand.
actually the best place to cut it off.
I don't know why I'm having trouble with it with Glen Oaks, but I'm sure you're going to take care of it now, Rich. I hope so. So that's the way the routes are made. Marshall, I don't know whether you was with us earlier about the dumpster. They are going to be removed, right?
Yes, sir. That was only intended for a temporary measure, and it certainly wasn't required for people to bring their trash to it. Yeah, it will be removed.
We get them moved probably tomorrow, huh? Hopefully. Marshall?
Oh, yes, sir. We'll get it as soon as we can.
Because I know I'm gonna get a call in the morning. I think earlier, Alderman Skidmore, maybe Alderman Brown made a mention about talking and probably meeting about what we need to do. I want to remind everybody, this is a BOMA situation. It's not a John Bradley. It's not a one alderman's problem. It's everybody's problem on this board. That's why we're here tonight. So I would encourage the mayor to let's get the board together and let's talk about this, because honestly I'm like Alderman Arlene and Alderman Brown. I'm ready for a fine. I am sick of this, and I strongly feel like we need to have a meeting. The BOMA ought to get together and let's talk about that. And if you want to give them a week or 2 weeks or a month to get the act straight, we can talk about that. But Mr. Dolan, I hope you can get this straightened out because we deserve better than what we're getting. Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Collins. Alderman Collins, you're muted right now. We all do it. It's okay.
Sorry. Thank you. First, I want to say that with just a few exceptions, I've had no complaints about the crew, the drivers of the trucks. They're good people. They're working hard and they are so appreciated. I should have mentioned that first. Earlier this week, Lori Kate told me that there were no amount of resources that would fix this problem, that it didn't matter how many trucks they had. If everybody has COVID, the trucks can't leave the parking lot, that CDL drivers do not want to do backdoor pickup and they cannot be hired. Now we have Mr. Dolan here saying that they're going to dedicate the resources needed to fulfill this contract. I don't know. Another thing is that during the course of this conversation, we've heard the tonnage referenced because of COVID. What we know is that our tonnage that we have paid, the AAA transfer, well, I guess it's Republic that we're paying, pre-COVID versus COVID has increased by 2.8%. So I don't feel that there's any validity in that. We've also heard that our growth rate is causing the problem. Maybe the company underestimated our growth rate. What I have seen, what I did the math a minute ago, 1.4%. I'm not feeling that as a valid excuse either. I want every day an accurate list of missed streets. We have not had that once. We've had lists, they're not accurate. I need to know, Mr. Dolan, I don't know where you are on my screen. I need to know that you know what streets are missed. If you can't provide that information, I don't have faith in your ability to fix this problem. I want us to go ahead tonight and direct staff to fine. I don't know, maybe an advantage to being a new alderman is that I have just read this contract. And some of you may not realize that or remember that there is a 30-day period. We have to give notice. There's a name for it. There's a 30-day period that they have to correct the issues identified in the contract. I don't see any reason that we would not start that 30-day period now. That does not mean we have to cancel the contract. It puts us closer to a resolution. Hopefully, Mr. Dolan has come here to save us all from the heaps of garbage that we're under. But if that doesn't prove to be the case, Mr. Dolan, I think we need to move on and find somebody who can help us. I'm willing to work with Waste Pro during these 30 days. I have little ideas that maybe we can do to help make it easier for them to pick up our garbage, still within the terms of the contract. Maybe we can identify the people who have backdoor service by putting a sticker on their mailbox, as some other communities do. I don't know, but I think we need to get that clock ticking tonight. I can wait until the BOMA meeting on Tuesday if that's what everybody wants to do, but I want that clock to start ticking. Therefore, I would like, well, let's do it separately in case we have disagreement. I move that we direct Mr. Lamarb to direct staff to fine the company and bring that to us on Tuesday for approval.
Second, but I'd like for purposes of discussion.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's an appropriate motion. I think it's appropriate second. Alderman Collins, I'll come back to you if you want to discuss this more.
Mayor, may I speak on that? I know my hand was already up, but I would like to speak to Alderman Collins' motion.
Sure, I'll come back to you. I just want to make sure that she's finished. She doesn't want to speak anymore on it.
Yes, sir.
I would like to make another motion when we're finished
Okay.
discussing this.
I will try to remember to come back to you, but I'll go to Alderman Petrelli right now.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Alderman Collins. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of that with some questions which might lend merit to your motion, and it may not. And if it doesn't, I'll back them out. So in listening to everybody throughout this meeting and all of the good input from the aldermen, and with Chairman Skidmore saying that the Public Works Committee has spent a lot of time in, not only working with the vendor and dealing with all these issues, I would like to see whatever Waste Pro is going to send to the board to first be vetted through the Public Works Committee. I realize that we have a new member on there, but I think this meeting has brought him probably up to speed already. And I'm reading off my questions here. If fines are to be assessed, we need the Public Works Director to give the exact numbers to produce that fine. And tonight I've heard that we don't know how many houses are on streets when whole streets are missed, or HOAs. I would hope that those numbers are starting to be generated right away tomorrow. So if I call in and say, hey, Neptune was missed, or the Friday pickup of Chesapeake was missed, how many houses are there, so that you're not having to go house by house by house. And I do have a question to you, Director Boyd. When was the last time a letter of correction was sent to Waste Pro from the Public Works Department?
A letter of correction, like a formal letter stating that I guess they should change their
that they've had subpar service that doesn't meet the contract.
Well, I don't know that a formal letter has ever been sent, but we're in communication virtually every day and multiple times a day about their service and production and the missed houses. And but we never formalize that into a letter.
Why?
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so I would say, as a part of the stipulation with Alderman Collins' recommendation, to make sure that we've all done our due diligence, that this is run through the Public Works Committee so that they can do their vetting, since they are the experts on the board for this particular subject matter. That would be my only amendment to her amendment, or I can back that out and recommend that as a completely separate amendment.
Alderman Collins, do you just want to add that? You're certainly welcome to accept it or reject it.
How does that affect the timing? Yeah,
Do we-
no, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
The timing isn't significant to me as the fact that we get it right
okay.
on the fine.
We do not have a Public Works Committee meeting coming up before our next board meeting.
That's fine.
Okay,
The fine, the timing on the fine isn't as significant as starting the clock on the contract, in my opinion. So let's
Okay.
be right. That's a friendly amendment for sure.
Alderman Skidmore,
So,
Chairman
hold on here.
Skidmore,
Yes, ma'am.
because we would like to see the committee's expertise on this, because you all know the most about the garbage contract.
Hold on
Yes,
one second.
ma'am.
I want to make sure I
We'll
understand.
call a
Alderman
special
Skidmore, hold on one
meeting.
second. I want to make sure I understand the motion. So the motion is going to be that you're directing our interim city administrator to have staff determine a fine for the company and bring that to the Public Works Committee, and then to the board at the board meeting that follows.
Yes.
Okay, Alderman Skidmore, thank you.
Yeah, I was just responding to Vice Mayor Petrelli. Yes, ma'am. We'll get it for you. We'll get it. And
Thanks,
Rachel,
sir.
both. And you, and I'm sorry, Alderman Collins, we'll get that. Both of you young ladies, we'll get them for it. We'll take care of it.
Okay, so then with Alderman Collins, you still have the floor. May I speak, Mayor?
I think we're to you. I think you've got the floor. You're fine.
Okay, thank you. So if Waste Pro, because I'll be honest with you, I feel like we still don't have clear-cut information from Waste Pro, nor have they answered many questions here tonight. I realize that Mr. Dolan will be bringing information to us, which will be, like I said, kind of last minute for us to rehash out on Tuesday night at BOMA. So I just want to make sure that this information will, first of all, come to the board for everybody's review. Then it will go through the Public Works Committee for their expertise to vet everything that Waste Pro has stated. And then basically, at the same time, we're enacting what Alderman Collins said, which is Waste Pro is on the clock right now. And with Director Boyd's numbers, they will be able to put this mysterious puzzle together for us. Does that make sense, Chairman Skidmore?
Yes, ma'am, it does. I agree. I'm with you right step by step. I know that as soon as we get it from the board, after everybody looks at it, and as soon as it's submitted to us from the board, we're going to be right on it. We'll probably, I don't know how long it would take, but maybe, at a week at the most.
Well, in that way,
I would think
you all can make a formal recommendation to BOMA.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, you're muted.
You're muted. Oh.
Mayor, you're muted.
So embarrassing when I do that. Let me ask a logistical question. Marshall, I suspect that I have an invoice coming to me from Waste Pro pretty soon. Do you know?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Dave, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Robert sent me an invoice yesterday, and I sent him back a note that I wasn't going to sign until we had this meeting, and we decided if there were going to be any deductions or adjustments to the bill. So I have not approved that yet.
Okay. Should this amendment, and this is really to Dave, should this amendment include a note that the board is asking you not to sign it? Or do you just want to agree not to?
I'm not planning on signing to go and make a decision. You're the people that make the decisions, and I'm just following your orders.
Okay, Alderman Collins, Alderman Petrelli, are you okay with just his agreement not to sign it?
Absolutely.
Okay. If he doesn't sign it, I don't sign the check. If he doesn't sign the invoice or the check issuance request, I don't sign the check.
Okay, so that'll be a part of the amendment for us to all vote on.
I think we're good. He's said that he's not going to sign it, so I think that's fine, and I'm not going to sign it. So I think we're good without that being part of the amendment. So we have a couple other hands up here. I see Alderman Brown and Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Brown, go ahead. Alderman Petrelli, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you, before I give input, could you restate exactly where we're at on Ms. Collins' motion?
This is the motion I have, and Annette, feel free to shake your head no or to interrupt me if that's not what you have. The motion is to direct our interim city administrator to have the staff determine a fine for the company and take that to our Public Works Committee to be then taken to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at the next meeting following the Public Works Committee.
Exactly what I had.
In conjunction with the recommendations from Waste Pro. So they would be, the Public Works Committee would be giving an overall, not just fines, but what their corrective actions plan to be so that we know what exactly is going to happen.
Alderman Collins, I think that was your next motion. I don't think that's included in this motion.
Is in this motion.
Okay, hold on. Let's go to Alderman Collins to have her explain a little bit.
We can include that in this motion, assuming that Waste Pro can provide their recommendations before the next Public Works Committee meeting.
Good one. That's good.
Okay.
I think we'll go around the moon. I still got the floor, Mayor.
You do. I'm trying to get answer to question to prove not to be as easy.
I know. We may have confused it that much more. I think here's what I look at. Time frame Tuesday night. This coming Tuesday on the 12th. From what I understand, Ms. Cunningham asked a while ago, and Ms. Collins put it, I believe, in a form of a motion that we are presented with the plan of what's going to happen from Waste Pro this coming Tuesday night. Rachel, is that true? Just not.
Not entirely. That was my original thought, but in order to give time for it to go through Public Works Committee, it would not necessarily be this BOMA meeting. It might be the following meeting because they don't have a meeting scheduled. The committee doesn't meet between now and Tuesday.
Okay. I'm good with that, but I still would want to see something from Waste Pro this Tuesday night on the 12th from Mr. Dolan, who said he could have a plan in place in 48 hours. I would also like to compliment you, Mr. Dolan. You should be a politician. You haven't answered a question tonight, but you did very well dancing on them. So, but anyway, you did answer one, but you could have a plan by Tuesday night. That gives you actually more than 48 hours to do that. I believe that's what Ms. Cunningham had. Now, further with Ms. Collins, I would like to see, and this is probably, I'm just speaking to your motion now, I guess, by the 26th, I believe, is our second meeting. Public Works will have that plan from Waste Pro. Certainly, I would think Waste Pro would have their plan already moving forward. I don't know, Mark, if you want to have a meeting before that or try to do it that night. I know no time gets, your list gets really big on Public Works, but I don't want us to go into a meeting and sit, talk and talk and talk. We've talked 3 hours tonight. Rachel's put us on a timeline, which I like. Mr. Dolan has agreed to part of that timeline Tuesday night. I would like to know what the fine is by Tuesday night. I want them to know what they're going to have to pay. So I don't know how that all fits in there. I just want, I want the culmination of this to be on the 26th. And we have a comprehensive report from the Public Works Committee saying, here's what Waste Pro's plan is, here's what we have, and here it is, board. What do you think about it? Because I'll go back to what I said earlier. I mean, you know, I'm tired and I'm fed up. So you need to pay for it. You need to get a plan. It needs to be approved by the committee, needs to come to BOMA, needs to be implemented, or I'm ready to fire you. Thanks.
Alderman Brown, currently the motion does not have a proposal for a fine coming to us Tuesday night.
I would like to see that added.
Okay.
I think we could get that number by Tuesday night.
Okay. Alderman Collins, Alderman Petrelli, how do you feel about that?
That if Mr. Skidmore's committee can meet between now and Tuesday night, I would really love that, but I don't. Mr. Skidmore and your committee is working hard.
Let me ask
right
some
now.
of the.
I don't want to put more on you.
Oh, that's, and I genuinely appreciate more than you know. I can ask let's just ask the other committee members, could you meet on Monday or even Tuesday morning before the meeting?
Alderman Robertson, Alderman Waters?
No, Mr. Chairman Skidmore, I can meet either Monday or Tuesday morning to review the fines and make a recommendation to, and I guess also review the plan of the company. Is that also part of our review? Yes,
yeah,
I can.
That's and we'll be able to release the paperwork to the board that night on Tuesday.
Yes, I can meet.
Okay, we'll do that we'll call for a meeting then, let's say Tuesday at say about 9:30. Does that?
Did Mr. Peterson give his input?
We're getting ready to ask him.
Lee was our mystery phone caller a second ago, and he is still with us.
Is he back up?
He's still with us.
He's muted.
Yeah, and I cannot unmute him, and we might have there we go. We might have to ask Tina to do that. Okay. Thank you, Tina. Neither of us can unmute him at this point. So I feel like there's a very strong possibility that we're going to have a Public Works Committee meeting before the board meeting Tuesday night.
We will. We'll have it on Tuesday, and we will have Eddie, myself, and more than likely Lee. If not, we still have a quorum with Eddie and myself.
Okay.
So we're in good shape, in other words, on Tuesday.
So it seems like we've got an agreement from what Alderman Brown wants, what Alderman Collins wants, and what Alderman Petrelli, and what the motion is. And I see the motion at this point to be that we should expect a plan of action from Waste Pro within 48 hours, and that plan is going to go to the Public Works Committee. We also are directing our interim city administrator to have the staff come up with a fine for the company, and both of those items will come to the board at our next meeting. Have I explained the motion adequately, Alderman Collins and Alderman Petrelli?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Alderman
Thank you,
Brown,
Mayor.
does that make sense?
Excellent sense. Thank you.
That's scary. Okay, so we need to discuss this motion here as we have it at this point. Alderman Cunningham and Alderman Robertson, both of your hands are up. I want to come to something. I'll wait. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you again for having the special call BOMA meeting. I really do appreciate that. Would the maker of the motion consider putting it into two motions? One for the reimbursement or the fines, and one for the plan?
Yes.
Alderman Collins?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right, because
so
I don't
the
want one
plan
to get
would not
bogged
be
down
due
by
on
the other.
Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah,
Is that what you're
we
saying?
would.
Hold
I
on,
mean,
let
that's
me go to Alderman Collins.
Are you saying, is your goal there that the plan would not be due to us on Tuesday?
No, both would be due on Tuesday, but they would be two separate resolutions or whatever we need to do with them. This way, one doesn't bog down the other.
We can do that. We can make sure when they come to us that I will just remind the staff that you asked for it to be two separate resolutions. I don't feel like we've got to change the motion to do that.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't want us to be negotiating the.
You don't want one to fail when the other by being piggybacked.
Or one to be a longer negotiation, like for the fines, and then the plan be held up.
Right.
Because I think the plan, I think they're both important, and I think they both need to go through our Public Works process and then to BOMA. But I don't want the plan to be held up by the fine part in case we have some, negotiation back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Skidmore, when this goes through your committee, could you make sure that it is in two separate motions, two separate resolutions?
Yes, sir. We will. We'll bifurcate the two.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham.
No.
That was my question. And
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate Alderman Collins and Alderman Vice Mayor Petrelli. Thank you.
Eddie.
Alderman Skidmore, I feel like I cut you off. Alderman Collins, I feel like I cut you off. Anything else on the question from Alderman Cunningham?
No.
Okay, we're going to go to Alderman Robertson. Thank you, Alderman Cunningham.
And I want to thank Alderman Collins and Petrelli for this
Thank you, Mayor.
motion. I think that it's timely, but I do have a question of Mr. Bradley. We're dealing here with contract law. This is a contract, and I have read section 13, which is the termination of contract clause, which I think Alderman Collins is pulling her 30-day cure period date from. So I just want to make sure, Mr. Bradley, is this motion legally defensible at this time?
Well, it's not a matter of legally defensible. It really needs to be. We've got to give written notice. So I think the motion should be for the city to give written notice to Waste Pro that they are terminating the contract. That's what this termination language means. That you're terminating the contract if that's with the will of this board, and they've got 30 days to cure the defects. And if they don't cure within 30 days, the city can declare the contract terminated. So I'm assuming that's what Ms. Collins means. And the city would, of course, give this written notice on her, if that's what the board wants.
It's not currently in the motion. Go ahead, Alderman
Yes,
Robinson.
that would be a second. I would like to make a motion after this one because I don't want the fine and that motion to be combined as one vote. Fine first, and then we'll move forward.
So I think, Mr. Bradley, you said that the notice that we have to give the company if we're exercising this 30-day is that we intend, unless they cure the problems, that we intend within 30 days to terminate the contract. Is that what you said?
If that's the will of the board, that's my interpretation of the motion.
Yeah, and I know that there are problems. You've said that it could be legally argued that they are in breach of the contract. Mr. Boyd, have you made any efforts to see if we could get another provider if we have to go the nuclear route on this motion that Alderman Collins is suggesting?
I think there are possibilities there. Not to say it would be a smooth transition, but I think there are possibilities.
Okay. Okay. I intend to support the motion because I do think that this gives the proper message. It sends the proper message to Waste Pro, and I'm hopeful within that 30 days they can cure the problem and correct it. And I know that that's what you're hoping to also, Alderman Collins. So thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Collins, Alderman Petrelli, I don't have in your motion that we intend to cancel the contract.
That's accurate.
Okay.
I'm hoping that after we vote on the current motion, that I can make a second motion.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So just to be clear, this motion is asking Waste Pro to present their recommendations to the Public Works Committee that's going to meet on Tuesday, and also to have staff come up with a number for us, a fine with supporting data, also to go to the Public Works Committee. The Public Works Committee, we're asking them to come out with 2 resolutions to present to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Tuesday night. There is nothing in here about canceling the contract. So that's where we are right now. It seems we're going to have a motion separately about canceling the contract in a few minutes. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Alderman Waters, I've got your hand up. Do you wish to speak on this item?
No, I think you just cleared it because I was concerned about the fine and the termination of the contract. Yeah. But we're going to do the fine first.
We're going to do the fine with the plan coming from Waste Pro, both being considered by the Public Works Committee, then coming to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. That's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
And I should say, with the agreement, that our interim city administrator is not going to sign the check issuance request, and I'm not going to sign a check, and we've agreed to that. Does anybody need the motion repeated? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
I think I heard him say aye.
Annette, we're going to have to come back to that. He just sent me a text that says that he cannot unmute his phone.
Okay.
And he can't vote via text, and he can't vote via email.
Okay. Petrelli. I'm sorry, you were muted briefly.
Aye.
Thank you. Roberson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye. Hold on, Annette, before you announce the outcome. John Bradley, what can we do to allow, Lee Peterson's here.
Oh,
Councilman Peterson, would you like to register your vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is unanimous.
We have unanimous vote on that. Alderman Collins.
She's muted.
All right, now I'm back. So before I forget, I want to say that I have had interest from the residents in my ward in accessing the dumpster. So maybe Alderman Hayes and myself could get together with Marshall and find a location in Ward 5 for the dumpster that Alderman Waters does not need in his ward. And by the way, Mr. Waters, I really respect your optimism and that Mr. Dolan is going to be able to help us. And I hope that you are right. But
let me correct you. One of them is in my ward and one's in Ward 3.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I can't speak for Ward 3's dumpster. I'm just speaking for mine.
Right.
Take both of you.
So Mr. Dolan spoke about when asked what he would do if in our place, he said a reasonable period of time to fix the issue. I think 30 days is a reasonable period of time. My concern is that, as I stated earlier, I'm not confident that Waste Pro is a part of how we solve this problem. So if in fact they are not a part of our permanent solution to this problem, then I don't want it to drag on any longer than it has to. So I would like for us to direct Mr. Lamar to begin the process of getting whatever documentation, whatever it takes, to the Public Works Committee, and having that available for us on our Tuesday meeting to approve the beginning of that 30-day cure period.
I think I got that all down. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. I'm going to do my best to repeat this. That we are directing our interim city administrator to start the process and determine what we need to cancel the contract, and to have that information available to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Tuesday in order to make a decision to start the 30-day cure period Tuesday. Is that appropriate recollection?
Actually, that is accurate.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Annette, did you get that?
Could you repeat one more time? I'm sorry, I got most of it.
Sure. The motion is to direct our interim city administrator to start the process and collect data to allow the city to cancel the contract, and to have that available to the board Tuesday night to enable the board to decide if we should start the 30-day cure period.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Collins, do you wish to speak on this?
I would just want to reiterate to Lori Kate and Mr. Dolan that I want this to work out. Not for you, unfortunately, but for us, because I know transitioning to doing an emergency bid and then rebidding the contract is going to cause problems for our end user. I want y'all to fix this, but I also have a duty to be prepared if you're unable to do that. So I don't want you to take this as we are definitely done, in my opinion. I just, it's a contingency plan if you're not able to succeed. That's it.
Alderman Collins, thank you. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I had a question about the dumpsters. I'll wait till after the vote's made. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I won't turn your hand off there. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question of clarification. This is not to cancel the contract.
Right.
This is to get information basically from the city administrator or city attorney what the process would be to start that 30 days if we needed to.
And enable us on Tuesday night to start that 30 days.
Exactly.
But we will vote on that Tuesday night.
Right.
That's exactly right.
We're voting on directing the interim city administrator at this point.
I just think that's just some information we need to get. I don't know that we need to make a motion necessarily to do that, do we? To get that information together. That's not only the interim city administrator, that's Mr. Bradley as well.
Okay. It could give some specificity, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, if that is accurate, it does not require, as long as on Tuesday we can vote on this and be adequately prepared. It doesn't have to be a motion. I just want to make sure that happens. But on Tuesday,
I guess technically the problem is that no one of us supervise our interim city administrator. All 13 of us do.
Yeah.
So it sort of makes sense to have a vote on this if we expect it of staff.
We've got to.
You're welcome to disagree. I mean, absolutely welcome. Or vote against it.
Mayor, can I have a question?
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
Rachel, would you mind adding the city attorney and the public works director to that directive along with myself? Because I'm gonna have to get information from them. It won't be just me doing it. I'm gonna have to get legal verifications.
Of course. I just assumed that since you supervise, I don't know if you supervise Mr. Bradley, but that you could all.
Yeah, that's what I plan on doing anyway. So
Sure.
direct me to do it. That's what I'm going to do. If you direct it, that's fine. Either way you want to do it.
I think the three of us can commit to have that information together for the board Tuesday night.
Alderman Petrelli, are you okay with adding that to the motion?
Don't need to now, Mayor.
We've got two separate motions. We voted on one. I'm not on this one though.
Oh,
Thank you.
who is this one? Who seconded this motion? Annette?
Oh, I seconded it. Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with that for discussion.
Okay. Alderman Waters.
I think before the night's over with, what's that?
Don't know.
I don't know. I think before the night is over with, we need to at least consider Mr. Dolan and Lori's comments of response to what we've talked about here. Let's just don't vote and not give them a chance to respond. Thank you, Mayor.
Are you saying you want to hear their response to this current motion?
Yeah, I think we owe it to them.
Okay. Lori, Kate, I'll turn it to you, and you can turn it to other staff with Waste Pro if you'd like.
I would like to yield that to Tim first, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Certainly. I guess there's a couple of themes on what we're talking about tonight. Obviously, I don't want to see us get fined. Obviously, I don't want to receive a letter saying that there's a 30-day notice on discontinuing the contract. Most of you have made the comment that you want to get our attention. Okay, you've got my full attention. Whatever else is going on, whether it's fines or a letter or anything like that, you've got my attention from the standpoint that we're a company built on service. We have a reputation to keep. The reputation we have with you, your contract impacts other work we have in the state of Tennessee. It impacts work we have in other states. So, I mean, the commitment's there to go ahead and fix the problem. Okay. And independently of the motions and the things that you all do. I appreciate the sentiment that you all want to give us some time to get things in place. You can make this motion now, you can make it 30 days from now. Again, that's completely up to you guys. I would appreciate the ability to at least get a plan in place, get it before everybody. And if your public works folks or your board wants to go ahead and review it and discuss it and go back and forth with it, and see if there's some progress being made or progress not being made, and maybe use that as a determination for how to proceed. But again, I'll leave that completely up to y'all.
Thank you, Tim. Alderman Waters.
Well, that's what I want to hear him say. I think we owe that to the company, and I think he's sincere and he's honest. And now that the ball's in his park, so we go from here. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Waters. Alderman Cunningham.
I'm thinking that maybe something like this needs to go to the regular Public Works Committee first instead of BOMA.
It would.
Instead of the special called one, the one in 2 weeks. Would you consider that? And then come to BOMA?
I don't understand the benefit of it. If it goes through Public Works with the same people, why would it?
Yeah, I'd like to see what Waste Pro comes up with their plan and their timeline on their plan. And the fine situation first, and then for us to consider this as a second step. That's just my thought process.
That's valid. That's valid. My thinking, however, is that they have told us they will be caught up by Saturday. So I'm actually giving them 3 extra days to once again not disappoint me with a broken promise.
Okay.
I don't think my ward has been disproportionately impacted. It just, I know everybody's wards have been impacted similarly. It's just that our pickup is Wednesdays and Thursdays. So this getting caught up by Saturday is more, are my people going to get their trash picked up by Saturday or not? And I don't
think about it. Just my comment.
Alderman Cunningham, anything else?
I mean, I think, in my opinion, I don't think 2 weeks one way or the other is going to be a real bad thing, and it may just give us time to think about that a little bit longer. But I'll support whatever.
We can always bring it. We can bring it back up at every BOMA meeting we have from now until the end of the contract, if necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I feel I want us to vote on this.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Collins, thank you. Alderman Waters, I see your hand is back up.
Let's call the motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion. We do have Dave. I think Dave wanted to weigh in here, and I want to add something as well.
Mayor, I had a question about the dumpsters. If we can wait till.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I got to tell you, I like this motion. I like the approach of carrot and stick. I think it's worthwhile. I know that we're supposed to get a plan of improvements from Waste Pro. I think that's very important. A couple questions for y'all, and this is probably toward Tim. Tim, you talked a little bit about the Be Sure list that you have in some other markets. Does Hendersonville have a Be Sure list? Those addresses that you make sure get serviced each day that they are supposed to? Does Hendersonville have a Be Sure list?
Honestly, I don't know. Richie, you'd have to answer that.
Richie, does Hendersonville have a Be Sure list?
Yes, sir. We got a long driveway list, and we have a list of houses that's been missed more than 3 times.
Okay.
It's on the long driveway list, and the supervisor, it's on his list to check also.
Okay. I gotta imagine that. I mean, I'm going to read off a bunch of addresses here. We've had several addresses that have been brought up. 129 and 131 Walton Ferry Road. And the reason I bring these up is because I've sent emails about these multiple times, and I've asked how they're being addressed, and those emails have been ignored. These are not addresses that have been skipped once. These are addresses that have been skipped multiple times. And there's a reason that I'm bringing up these addresses again. 116 Crestview, 126 Anderson Lane, 115 Braxton Lane, the trash is at the garage and he repeatedly gets skipped. 115 Ten Oaks Drive East, 358 Crooked Creek Lane, 165A Cherokee Road, 313 Sandersbury Road. I think Alderman Campbell might have mentioned that one. 238 Stadium Drive, 118 Winding Way. I hope those are on your be sure list. I hope that all of the addresses that I've given you in the repeat emails are on your be sure list. But the reason I bring up this list more than anything else is because I also think that your plan of improvements needs to include that you'll reply to my emails. Tim, I hope that your plan of improvements says that you will reply to emails from the mayor and from aldermen. I don't send you emails asking for explanations because I want you to spend a lot of time on your computer that day. The reason that I ask for explanations on why those houses are missed is because if you give some explanations, it moves us toward finding a solution. I don't expect you to find a solution if you don't know what caused the problem. I'm tired of my emails being ignored. Easily, I've sent more than 400 that have been ignored since March. I'm tired of that. I certainly hope that your plan of improvements includes that your staff is going to answer emails from aldermen and from members of the board. I also realize that you mentioned that you have a template for deciding how many trucks and how many employees you're going to need. And Tim, you mentioned this. Does that template or formula, does that include how many trucks and employees you're going to need for backdoor service, or is it just curbside service?
When I say there's a template, and this is one of the things I alluded to, it gets into specific municipalities. So for instance, we would take into account the number of backdoor services that we had to deal with versus curbside when building that template. And then we've got historical data with what we've done with you guys already that we can go back and look route by route. How many hours a day is the route going? How many homes are they picking up? Because some routes are tighter than other routes. So we should have plenty of data to be able to establish the proper staffing level and the proper number of trucks for your city.
Was backdoor service considered when you determined the number of routes, trucks, and staff a year and a half ago?
Yes.
Okay. What went wrong?
I don't know if it's and again, I've got to go in and do an assessment. So I don't know if it has to do with the number of routes and the number of people, or if it has to do with the amount of available labor. You know, we can go ahead and budget to have 25 employees, but if we only have 21 or 22 people hired, obviously that's going to impact that. Okay. We can budget to have, 10 trucks running, but if you don't have a spare and a truck breaks down, and I'm not saying that's the case, then you run into an issue. So that's why I'm saying we're going to reassess all of these things. And to the point about, did we take that into account? I'm used to routes being, for just curbside service, having 2.5 to 3 times as many homes.
Okay. How many people are assigned to each truck?
Rich, you can answer that. I don't know how we have the assignments done there.
Have a driver and 1 helper.
Okay. I got to tell you, I think this is the first time that I have heard that staffing is an issue. That's a little bit disconcerting, and it just goes to the point that was made by a couple other folks earlier that the excuses seem to change. It's been COVID, it's been Christmas, it's been the level of the volume, and now it's staffing. Go ahead and answer that, please.
Mayor, if you'll forgive me, some of my answers tonight, again, I'm not familiar with the day-to-day and the in and out. Some of the answers I've given have been generalities that have been more industry-wide than necessarily specific to Nashville or to Hendersonville. So, if I've said anything out of step or something that's contradictory to what you've heard from the local folks, they know what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so let me ask the local folks, has staffing been an issue?
Hey, Richie, you're muted.
We are normally fully staffed. If we have a driver that's am I unmuted?
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay. We are normally fully staffed. If we're short, my supervisor gets on the truck. But with the COVID, That's what knocked us back, not making excuses, but we're fully staffed with the total of trucks that we have running in Hendersonville with helpers and drivers.
How many weeks in the past, how many weeks since you started the contract did you not have a full staff?
We would have to go back and just pull personal files to see how many people was out with COVID or whatever to give an accurate number.
Not to be a jerk or anything, but why didn't you bring that number with you?
Didn't know what all question was going to be asked. I mean, we have all this stuff in our database.
I think that your plan of improvements needs to include an answer to that question. Several people have asked about data analysis. Your plan of improvements needs to cite the level of staffing, the weeks that you've had a hard time with that, and how you're going to address that, whether it be due to COVID or due to low pay or due to the labor force. I certainly hope that your plan will address that. I think your plan also has to address our bulk items. We haven't talked much about that tonight, but that has been an issue. I hope your plan of improvements will include addressing that. And I also hope that it will answer some questions about revenue. Hopefully, Tim, you can answer this one. If your staffing levels have been low, your expenses, I assume, would have been lower. Is that a good assumption?
It depends why the staffing levels are low. If we have people who are sick and out with COVID, we're still paying those folks sick pay or whatever the case might be. So
okay.
It depends on whether it's short people for not having the people or being short people for them being out sick.
Okay. Were there times that you simply didn't have enough staff? It wasn't due to COVID. You just simply didn't have enough people on the payroll?
That would have to be answered locally.
Yes, I'm sure from.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yes, I'm sure from time to time, yes, we will short staff one person, but like I said, I have my CDLs. I've been out on trucks when we're short, and so has the supervisor.
So there were times when the expenses for Waste Pro weren't as high as you had anticipated.
As Mr. Tim just said, if somebody was out with COVID, we had to pay those employees too.
Okay, but sometimes you didn't have the full sometimes you didn't have a full staff.
Correct.
Okay, so if you didn't have a full staff, you weren't using your full budget for labor.
Well, let me step in there for a second, because speaking with the regional VP in the past, the estimates that were made for the labor force coming in there were underestimated as far as what the rate of pay would be. And I've been told that our rate of pay is actually much higher than we anticipated. So I don't know that one wouldn't offset the other.
Okay. Have you paid out your budgets for labor?
I don't have that answer in front of me, but I could certainly get it.
Do one of your local people have that answer?
We have adjusted our pay accordingly to other haulers in the area. We are right there with them, if not more.
Have you paid out your full budget for labor?
We would have to look at those numbers.
Yeah. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that's what I've been saying all along is the labor. When you say you have a driver and a helper, you really need a driver and two helpers. I mean, I just can't imagine trying to go backdoor service, even if only half the houses are utilizing backdoor service, trying to go forward. Just think the length of some of the driveways and the tonnage or the weight that the guys and the employees are pulling up and down driveways, and that's why the cans don't get returned to the behind the house, and they get drugged from behind the house to the street and get dropped in the curb or in the ditch alongside the driveway, or left out in the middle of the street, or any other number of things that our constituents have told us about it and sent us pictures on. And I just really would like to see them step up and add some employees to every truck. I think minimum of three per truck, a driver and then two helpers, and another truck or two to the service is imperative. We want to see improvement in the situation of what we have here in Hendersonville. So Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your time.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Lori, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I would just, I appreciate you allowing me to speak here. I just want to say I understand that Tim has not been involved in this, and that I per se have been from the time that we calculated the numbers and looked at the staffing and the equipment. And we are going to have him evaluate all of those items so that we can answer so many questions that people have. And I think until we have those answers to come back to you to say proper, short, over on staffing, equipment, et cetera, I think that piece of information will provide a lot to this board, and giving us the time to do that will be very beneficial. So we appreciate the time to do that, and then we can answer some more questions on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate the carrot and the stick approach that the board is taking tonight. I also appreciate the fact that several people complimented me for calling this meeting. It wasn't just me. There are several people that wanted to have this meeting, and I appreciate those people speaking up and sticking their necks up. Several aldermen that we have here. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I realize that I believe we're still on a motion, but while folks are asking questions to the vendor, I know a discussion that I had with Lori several months ago. Are your routes still proprietary? At one time I asked
If I can speak to that to my knowledge and my experience in the industry, our routes belong to us. If I'm speaking out of turn based on my experience, Tim, please overstep in this. But to my knowledge, our routes were our information. And so please, Tim.
Generally, I mean, in the instance we're talking here, I've got no issue with sitting down with staff and reviewing routes, or, making a plan. One thing I'd like to kick in, if you don't mind, and I kind of thought about this when the mayor was asking some questions. I guess this motion's here about, and it's passed about us presenting a plan and the 30 days and whatnot. I don't know if it's better for us maybe to meet with the Public Works Committee, and because I can go ahead and put a plan together and submit it. And if it doesn't address things that you all want to be addressed, I don't want the plan looking as if it's incomplete. I'd like the ability to submit a plan, get feedback from the city, and really, craft this thing to make sure that we're addressing everything that needs to be addressed, so that we can, put a full product in front of you guys. I don't want to put something in front of you and then half of you don't like it because it doesn't address things that we didn't necessarily think need to be addressed. So I don't know how that plays into the conversation, but I want to make sure that, we're both in concert with this plan.
Sure, and I appreciate you saying that. The reason why I asked the question about your routes being proprietary is because back in June and July, when we had such a difficult time getting Ward 1 Fridays picked up, sometimes it ran all the way to Sunday, I said, could I take a look at the routes? And you told me no, because they're proprietary, and I totally understand that. I am by no means suggesting that people's days get switched around, because I think that would lead to chaos at this point in the city.
Right.
But it makes zero sense. Mark and I represent the same ward, and our ward is split on 2 different days. We have a pickup on Tuesday and one on Friday. So since you guys have been oftentimes on a rolling contiguous schedule, it makes no sense to be in one part of town, you miss half of that area, then the next day you're supposed to be coming back to that area to finish before you move on to the next area. So if you're zigzagging across town, we have 2 peninsulas in the city, as you know from the maps, and then we've got the other side. I mean, it seems like if you moved through the city kind of contiguously and had days that went back to back, if you missed our Tuesday route, and the second half of the Ward 1 Friday route was moved to Wednesday, you would be starting off in the same area and not wasting as much time backtracking. And again, I'm not suggesting that you change your routes. I've
Right.
never understood your routes to begin with because they are not contiguous and literally do not make sense.
And this is going to be one of the things that we look at. And just to address, one of the other aldermen made the comment that I've been a little evasive on answers. I'm not trying to be evasive on answers. I'm trying not to tell you something that I can't back up. In other words, if I don't have the facts, if I don't know the information, I don't want to present something to you guys and say we're going to do it, and then I come back and say, oh, well, I really can't because I didn't know A, B, and C was going on. So my intention is to submit a plan on what we're going to do. It's going to be a little bit of a working document. In other words, there will be some things I won't have a finite answer to, but I will have a finite answer by. For instance, the routing. It may be a situation where if we do change the routing, that takes a little bit of time to go through GIS and those type things. But again, I want to make sure there's open communication between our company and your city on, the path that we're going down, and it's continuously updated, and you all are continuously updated on the progress.
Thank you. If the routes were changed for any reason, which as you know, would lead to a lot of confusion in the city for several weeks, I would certainly appreciate a rigorous approach on that, meaning that you're going back to several areas twice a week rather than letting people get drug out, because that would take quite a bit of time to get the city on a new schedule. But you do need to look at your routes, and I would love to have taken a look at them, but I was not legally allowed to because of the proprietary nature.
That's honestly probably more of a long-term solution right now. We want to focus in on getting right what we have and what's in place. And then
Agreed. I just wanted to get everything out there since we were talking about all issues.
Agreed.
Yeah, Alderman Patel, I think that's smart. Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Alderman Cunningham. Oh, we'll go to Alderman Brown.
Alderman Cunningham went on an extreme diet there in the last 5 minutes. She's gone. Thank you, Mayor. I almost feel like we're starting to go around in circles a little bit here now. I think we've got a good plan. We've discussed everything, hashed it out pretty hard tonight. We've got a good input from you, other aldermen, Mr. Bradley, and from the Waitsville representatives. Although, Mr. Dolan, I still think you would make a great politician. You've yet to answer a question. You've answered a question, what's the question, which he would make you a greater politician. You ask Mr. Skidmore, he's been doing that for decades. I would call the question. I think it's time to move forward.
Got a motion to call the question. We do have a couple other people in the queue. We have a motion, a second to call the question. This is going to require 9 votes for us to cut off discussion. All those in favor of cutting off discussion and voting on the motion that we've got on the table, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. When Annette calls your name.
Mayor, could I get a clarification on who seconded the motion, please?
Motion was made by Alderman Brown, seconded by Alderman Petrelli.
Okay, thank you.
What?
We're just,
okay, sorry.
We're just calling the question.
Yeah.
And discussion.
Wait. Brown,
Aye.
Collins, excuse me,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Cunningham, Dixon,
Aye.
Cunningham.
Sorry. Aye, sorry.
That's okay. Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Roberson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
and Clary.
Aye.
Is unanimous.
It passed unanimously. So we're back on the motion, and this is the motion, as I understand it, that we are directing the interim city administrator, the city attorney, the public works director to start the process to cancel the contract and to collect the necessary data and have both of those available for Tuesday's meeting to enable the board to start enable the board to decide if we should start the 30-day cure period. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Roberson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, Annette. Dave, do you want to address the question about the dumpsters?
Yeah, just briefly, Mayor, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Marshall and I talked about this a few days ago. The bulk items are causing a little bit of an issue with mattresses and desks and couches and stuff like that. And we just had an idea that the bulk items could go in the big dumpsters, and maybe people could take those because they're filling the trucks up too quick and they haven't make too many trips back and forth to Nashville. All we're trying to do is just help solve a bulk item issue for 60 or 90 days until and make it available to the public, just so we could try to help out that particular part of it. So that was the reason for that, Mayor. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that explanation. Alderman Brown.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We got a motion to adjourn, a second from Alderman Campbell. Alderman Waters' hand was up.
Yes, it is.
Would you all like to withdraw those motions?
I will.
I will.
Okay. Alderman Waters.
Unmute yourself.
You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
There we
sir.
go. You're good.
I want to address that dumpster issue from this interim city administrator. Are you saying you put that out there for these people to carry mattresses and sofas to these dumpsters? You got to be kidding me. Is he on there?
All we're doing is making it available to them if they want to do that. Mr.
No, that's not the way to run a business. I don't want it in Ward 6. I've had too many complaints since they got this message, and this is what they're telling me. And now I'm telling you, okay?
Alderman Waters, thank you. Dave, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, excuse me.
Yes, in regards to the bulk items, I actually was talking to Marshall about using our own knuckle boom trucks that we use to pick up limbs and other yard waste with to go out and pick up large quantities of cardboard boxes that are on the side of the road, those sofas, couches, and mattresses that are out there, and then take them to those dumpsters and offload that stuff into those dumpsters for our constituents, just to help move the process along to catch up. So that was one of the thoughts I had as well. So maybe we can find a spot over here in Ward 2 for one of those dumpsters, because we would love to be able to get rid of some of this stuff if we could possibly do it. It's not a perfect answer, but it is helping facilitate an answer, problem solving here. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, I would suggest to let the Public Works Committee deal with Mr. Lamar's suggestion about bulk items. My concern is that that's part of the contract with Waste Pro, and so what we're doing, we're relieving them of part of their responsibility, which may be appropriate, but let's wait to see what their plan is, and then let Public Works deal, Mr. Lamar, if that's okay. If that's okay, Mr. Chairman, Skidmore, let us deal with this dumpster issue and bring back to the board a recommendation.
It's fine with me if it's good with the committee, the board.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Collins, your hand was up for a second.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I have had people in my ward who were interested in using the dumpsters. I did not understand that it was just bulk. I have, some of my people who went and are still waiting. They just wanted to take their trash there. And I'm not sure if they have done that yet. And I would like for us to see those dumpsters stay somewhere until the service is caught up. Because I do have people who are wanting to use them. Yeah, we can move it to Ward 5. We can figure out where, but I don't want them taken away too soon. At least let me warn people that they've got like 24 hours to get there or something. That's all.
Alderman Robertson, Alderman Skidmore, Alderman Peterson, could y'all discuss that at your next Public Works Committee meeting?
Yeah, it'll be Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. Alderman Petrelli.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one quick question about dumpsters. Are these new dumpsters or are these the existing dumpsters that we already have? Because I know we have one on Freehill and then the other one at Airhead. So are these brand new dumpsters that have been placed or the ones that we've had forever?
Yes, ma'am. They're all brand new.
They are. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Petrelli, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
You keep the, we would like to keep the dumpster in Ward 3, and I had two major complaints from two merchants in Ward 3 that my constituents were dumping their trash in the businesses' private dumpsters. So definitely leave the dumpster in Ward 3 in the industrial area where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Brown.
I'm going to try once again, but I'm going to speak to dumpsters first. I think dumpsters right now are a Band-Aid to help us out a little bit. If the Public Works Committee is going to consider fining the trash hauler Waste Pro, then they should consider the cost of the dumpsters, and our people have to haul stuff to them. And I move to adjourn this meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second from Alderman Campbell. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no when Annette calls your name.
Brown, excuse me, Brown,
I do.
Campbell,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye, and good night.
Dixon,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Petrelli,
Aye.
Roberson,
Aye.
Skidmore,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Clary.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
It's unanimous vote. We're adjourned. Annette, thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
Tina, thank you so much for your help. Everybody, thank you for your help. Waste Pro, thank you for being here with us and helping us out. Y'all
Thank
have
you,
a good night.
everybody.
Thanks for calling the meeting, Mayor. Good meeting.
Yes, thank you. It's very
Thank
good.
you.
productive
Thank you
meeting.
again, Mayor.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Good job, everyone.
I concur.